problem, Zeke. I got you. So we're going to have Iron Man's Repulsor Gauntlets has the ability to send a lot of Repulsor Blasts with 20 HP as well, using a nice Air Blast. And of course, Iron Man's Unibeam. And Sundown mentioned it, double Unibeams inbound is going to cause major chaos here, especially at in-game.
They're 90 damage apiece, and they will go through those builds, so it's coordinated. However, there's a big old laser beam that lets everyone know where you are. As now we're going to flip on over. That was Doom's mystical bomb coming out there. It will break builds and light stuff on fire. Now we're going to see his version of the gauntlets. Those are his arcane gauntlets that also rain shots from afar and let you get a nice little flying boost there.
Absolutely, and we have the new Venom Smash and Grab that goes through builds and brings the opponent right into their grill. And hey, the follow-ups with the shotgun pumps, and now we have Thor's Mjolnir Hammer coming from the heavens, raining down terror from above, and the ability to break down builds.
Yeah, that Mjolnir strike, very strong, but another way of breaking down builds there. That's Wolverine's Claws. You can see a nice little 3-hit combo going through there, a little bit of health regen added as well when you have those equipped. But we've talked about the strength of those melee powers, having a gap closer, having a disengage, but then also having this huge stun that can come out from She-Hulk's fists there. I mean, we've seen it be used a lot in the Super Cup, but in Battle Royale can offer a ton. But now our female representation also hopping on over there. Storm's Whirlwind Blast can break builds and negate projectiles in a close range, so tons of use for players there.
And of course, Black Panther's kinetic armor has the ability to kind of negate some of the damage and sends a big repulsive blast at the very end. And now we have something as well that we like to talk about, Group's Bramble's Shield. I Am Groot allows you to kind of have those flashbacks to the baller, regain some HP, you know, actually make some insane elevations as well. But Sundown, this is probably going to be the most important powers for the day.
And it's Silver Surfer's board, the ability to disengage, rotate, but then also drop on top of your opponent's break.
Round number 2. And that's what we'll be spectating here. At the end of the competition, Sancho, we'll see some new heroes join the fold.
Absolutely, man. We're going to see a superhero and a sidekick. I don't know what it's going to be at the end of the day, but hey, it's going to be a well-earned championship to be that Marvel Super Cup winner. Considering going from opens down to top 1,000, this section here, it's just going to be very chaotic, Zeke. And Sundown, the format in itself is going to be really good for the people that know how to play placement.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. We've been able to see it in kind of some other competitive formats and some other competitive competitions, but one thing to note is there's plenty of ways for them to be able to utilize and earn the points. Don't forget, this is, unlike the Knockout Cups, this is traditional Battle Royale. So we're having a duos format coming through. There's 50 teams who will be loading in. You can see the first placement point is granted after 5 teams have dropped. Then once you are into the top 25, it is 1 point for each duo dropping. However, the kicker towards the bottom there, each elimination is 5 points. So if you want to go and be a little bit aggressive, you have that option to go through. Additionally, you can see in the top 3, there's a little bit of added points going on there. So very placement heavy. However, the option to play aggressive is there. And we'll see how these players will utilize the Marvel powers to do so.
All of these superheroes trading blows, fighting back to back, and here is a prize breakdown. So every duo that does make it here will walk away with something which is just so cool to see. And guys, I mean, obviously with a wide variety of superpowers at disposal, we've got offensive abilities, defensive abilities, utility. I mean, we want to kind of theory craft a little bit. So talk me what you guys are hoping to see, whether that be powers that you hope people utilize in specific ways, or maybe because this is a duo competition, powers you guys think will be good use.
All right, thank you, Zeke, and welcome everybody to Game 1 of the Marvel Super Cup. It is time for a good time. Thanks to Tony Stark for making the alterations. Our battle bus is looking decked out, and I gotta say, to seal something, it's Marvel, baby! Here we go. I am Sancho West alongside with Sundown, and I'm excited to see what our competitors can do with these great powers.
Everyone always asks, when's Marvel? Well, it's right now, and
Yes.
what a better place to kick it off than Doom's Domain, the vault underneath. offering a ton of added utility, and we see a plenty of contention coming through. But again, don't forget, in this mode, this isn't the only place to get powers. They drop all over on floor loot. They pop out of chests, so you can already see Rayad sitting on the Silver Surfer board. He also has the rare pump as well as an epic LMG and AR to be able to pressure close here. His partner, Vertex Sterna, on the outside. They're going to get a knock right away on the ESP Dubbin and get the conversion to try and get the additional siphon. Again, we do have the arena rules coming through with some slight alterations in the form of the mats that are dropped and the mat caps. However, the siphon HP will still go over, and you get 5 points per each elimination. So right now, already seeing 5 plus the 1 from 5 duos already dropping.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that you're familiar with as well. It's like the way, same kind of play style, the same kind of mechanics, especially in-game. Like you mentioned, the mats are going to be limited, the vehicles are disabled, motorboats have been disabled. And as well, the big factor is there's going to be multiple superpowers, Marvel powers, throughout the entire island that you could stack. And that's what's exciting to me. Double Unibeam, double Silver Surfer, like all those options as well. But at the same time, Sundown, when we get into in-game, there's going to be multiple duels rocking these kind of Marvel powers as well. And the question is, we kind of mentioned it when we were kind of thinking about what this will be. In Marvel Knockout LTM, it was kind of like almost like a fighting game. A lot of trades, a lot of understanding who's going to be stuck in animations, who's going to be vulnerable to any kind of hit. So I'd be interested to see who kind of has that experience playing in the Black Widow Cup, playing in the Ghost Rider or the new Venom Cup. That's going to be interesting to see. I think those players have a little bit of slight advantage, but the big factor is how can you combine that advantage alongside with the Battle Royale game sets?
Yeah, that's the one thing that's really big to me is the fact that we haven't seen this in combination with those moving zones towards the end where we're going to see a lot of placement points going through. We actually saw in Asia overnight during round 2, Storm Surge ended up being a factor. However, we can anticipate in Europe a little bit more aggression coming out from there as Stenna right now sees the box double Unibeam. We talked about it right away, and Dubbin on the receiving end of that. So going to get rebooted only to get sent right back down, and that's the problem with getting stuck and bogged out in an early fight. Good punish, good coordination right away. Can they end up closing it out? A 24 white tag, and then the follow-up with the LMG will be the completion there onto planes, and then a huge shot right there. Very well played from Stenna, but he needs to create a little bit more distance because as soon as they have that Unibeam combo up, as Rayad is able to get Andin, they should be able to combo out this last opponent. Instead, not even going to bother, says, I got that pump shotgun, Sundown, going to stick with that.
You see, that's what's really interesting. You know, there is that habitual way just to get in, to engage, to go to old school box fight. But at the same time, Sundown, the safer play would have been just to wait for the cooldown of the Unibeam to come back and then send another big blast right through the builds. That would have put a lot of pressure on the teams that are inside the boxes. So, you know, hey, Raid and Stenna are doing really well. 5 elims, that's 25 points so far, 26 with placement to kind of get them started. But at the same time, you know, hey, you could definitely do that double Unibeam again.
We've talked about it, just how powerful it can be when you're getting bogged down in those fights. So being able to resolve fights quickly and utilize the powers. So from one vault to another, over from Doom's Domain to Stark Industries in the battle right here on board with Lola Huabe and his partner 78 Everlast, already sitting on 3 eliminations, has a Unibeam as well as the rare pump and an epic Stark Industry rifle, but the Unibeam comes through. We talked about it, though. It is a little bit telegraphed, so if you are able to kind of react and get away from it, now you have an opportunity to punish or potentially counter Unibeam, as you can say, Huave trying to line up a shot.
That was like a scary moment as all of a sudden you see the Unibeam trajectory coming through. But yeah, I like it. You know, the sound of the effect as well lets you know that you're about to be blasted on. And now Huave now is going back to the Fortnite skill mechanics, gets Doxy right there with a kind of cheeky shin shotgun blast. And now it's a 2v1 situation. And we've been watching Fortnite competitive in duo since. 2v1s, it's going to be wrapped up very shortly, especially with these Marvel powers. It's just a moment. Here we go. Bang! Huave sends a big old Unibeam blast and disintegrates the competition easy.
And while he sends that blast over, he saves Everlast by the skin of his teeth. Look there, barely even see a sliver of green in the bottom left-hand corner. However, with all of that vault loot, he's going to be able to go, pick up a med kit, pop that real quick, get whatever shields back, and they're going to be happy walking away with the 20 points plus the 1 for placement. Right now, you can see a little bit of blast coming out there from Dr. Doom's Arcane Gauntlets, and a good follow-up from the pump right away. Dougie 1X going down, and then he's going to evaluate the Mythic Hall and decide what he wants to take with him.
Hey, yeah, you saw right there, Storm's Whirlwind Blast. That's available. That is something that's going to be a dark horse Marvel power. It's the great defensive. It prevents Unibeam, all projectiles. You can actually send back Doom's Mystical Bomb. So I'd be interested to see who gets to pick that up. And then more importantly, you could break builds. And if you're in a build fight, you could kind of use that Whirlwind Blast and send someone out with some fall damage. But they're going a little bit in with the old school weapon ways and gets a knock on Krizix. Now, Barty, this is where you don't want to be, because we all know what's going to happen. Like you mentioned, Sundown, it's Unibeam bait.
And now quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place as the shakedown comes down. Zaryx, the rock, going to know exactly where that opponent is. Again, going to be able to evaluate the Mythic Loot, see what goes on there. Not going to opt to swap it up. Again, that Epic Pump, kind of the bread and butter for most competitive players. The one-shot opportunity offered from it, incredibly strong, but you already see the Silver Surfer board being used. But then Dr. Doom's Arcane Gauntlets using the nice little float and fly to close the gap right away, knowing the cooldown won't get him out of there. And Zaryx puts him in a blender. Barty's going to go back to lobby and queue back up there.
Yeah, and when we were playing the Marvel Knockout LTM, when I was playing it, where I earned the Venom outfit by being top 250, I don't know,
Small flex.
with subtle thick flex with Clay Staley. But we noticed that the Iron Man Repulsor Gauntlets is a great chase down Marvel power. If someone is in white HP, you can essentially chase someone down with that lock-on ability once you get in certain range, and the ability to get that air blast to be right above them. There's just nowhere to run. The only defense against Iron Man's Repulsor Gauntlets, for the people out there who's getting ready for the NA East, I'm going to put a little bit of a tip right here for you. The only defense is, let me get, builds. Build against it. It's really weak against the builds, and if you could build to prevent those 20 HP tags, you could survive a little bit longer. Same things with Doom Arcane Gauntlets. Builds will prevent you that. But at the same time, we mentioned you have to have that Battle Royale game sense, and the gatekeeping will be a factor. So Ray and user 1, ADD34BB41, have a nice opportunity to get an easy elim, unless that other team over there has like a big-time Marvel power to surprise them with.
Yeah, and you can see them utilizing those Bramble Shields to try and close the gap there, get a little bit closer to the opponents. However, not a ton of excess shields or utility. They want to be able to pick this up. They need the refresher right now, and you can see them trying to keep priority positioning, as right now Igor is popping what I think is a medkit to try and get his white HP back up. We've already seen 22 duos drop, still 54 players remaining. Shockwaves and the Bramble Shield in hand, so some build destruction opportunity coming through, and instead it's going to be vertical Shockwave straight up and above. Right, going to take the high ground away, and User now going to build right on up to join him.
This is going to be a kind of a stalemate for the moment here. Let's see who's going to be able to walk away. This is barely Zone 2. This is still arena rules. Zones 1 through 4 will go through center. The Shockwave goes up, retaking heights. So right now you see Ray and User. They only have Groot's Bramble Shield. That is a kind of recovery or a defensive thing. Is not going to be really strong offensively, so they're going to have to rely on their Fortnite skills. And with a nice barrel stuff right there from Ray, now Ray is only having his partner User down to the sliver of HP. But time is going to be a factor, considering this is a good old-fashioned on-edge storm fight.
And again, we've talked about it not wanting to get bogged down in fights. If anybody is able to see this, they'd be able to Unibeam. But checking in the bottom right-hand corner, nobody in range right now. So right now, the Storm is going to be what the pressure is. And User with very low HP is actually going to end up ticking over. So while they will get the revive there, no, instead he's actually going to utilize the regen coming out from that Bramble and saying, hey, we got the fight right when we needed it. If the other team had been able to keep a little bit of pressure, it wouldn't have mattered. But that HP regen from the Bramble Shield as well as the mobility going to make that Storm fight a little bit less risky, as now we're going to hop on board here with FN Lewis, and you can see has the Unibeam, also has the Silver Surfer board, so they're going to line up a little bit of AR damage here and then probably look to close the gap.
Yeah, you know, those are the kind of passive Marvel powers as well we have to think about. You know, we have Wolverine's Claws, the ability to regenerate health. We have She-Hulk's Fist, the ability to regen health. So that's going to be able to kind of supplement or overtake any kind of health items, minus shield, of course, but you can kind of think about that, and that's going to open up your inventory. We'll see who's going to be able to have inventory. I mean, we could break down the minutia of things like that, but I think the teams that are going to be so successful is the ones that can be really creative. Bang! Double beam. Noms gets disintegrated unexpectedly. You got to be careful. Those simple mechanics of you boxing up out in the open, it's not safe anymore, brother.
Yeah, you can't box up. You can't get caught off in rotation and let him know that you're unafford. If you take one singular tag, it puts you in that double unibeam range of being able to take it down there. Lewis is going to get the confirmation onto Noms there after the shakedown to get whatever information they can. They're going to head towards the center zone. So what does that mean then? If a double unibeam on a box is basically 180 effective damage at once, how do you defend against that? Well, the first thing to note is you need to build out more than just one box. If it's a singular box, then it is very obvious where you are. It's going to be able to line up because all it takes is one failed unibeam or one failed double unibeam to then have it in return. You can't carry multiple of the same Marvel powers in there, so it's not like you can stack your entire loadout with just unibeams going on. They will share the cooldown, so double unibeam gonna come out there. Don't think they're gonna find a confirmation onto it, so now they need to be a little bit more cautious, and that's what we talked about, either building out multiples of these bases or doing a little bit of the Booga special and building scarecrows, Sancho.
Yeah, you know, kind of making yourself bigger is like maybe a blowfish tactic as well to be a little bit more dangerous. But let's take a look at the zone. It's going to be a Sweaty Sands finish. We have the north side here. Coral Castle could be a factor. Like I said, this is an arena kind of settings. Zones 1 through 4 are going to be centralized. Zones 5 will be that half in and half out. Zones 6, 7, and 8 will be those rotation circles going fully into the storm. And of course, Zone 9 will be the ultimate end game, all coming down to a complete close where the storm overtakes the entire island. And that is where I see, you know, the Marvel powers being a huge thing. I mean, a big factor with the Bramble Shield, the She-Hulk's Fist, the Wolverine's Claws could hold you on closer. But FN Lewis is relying on the Unibeam in some great way to initiate the engagement as a spear. But as you're seeing, there's a lot of arrows around the distance, and you got to be wary, as you got to be careful because the Unibeam could come in. So I agree with you, Sundown. You got to build a big mega base so the people have to guess where you are when they're initiating that Unibeam blast. But hey, there's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned legendary pump, you know what I'm saying? It gets the job done.
It's not quite a mythic weapon, but in some circumstances, it definitely feels like it when it's right on top of you, hitting those body shots as well as the headshots. But Reese Hub, one of the casters and analysts coming out from the FNC, has talked about how strong sitting in a bush is. Well, Larice says, surprise, see you sticking out there. You can see if you do aim down sights in a bush, a little bit of your barrel will stick out. Now they're going to begin to spray and try and close the gap. You note, Larice opting not to carry any of the Marvel powers right now. Dezinho going to clean up right away on that instant knock. They're going to be able to confirm onto both of them. 2 elims going over, and we'll see what they opt to carry with them now as shockwaves are available. Plenty of slurp fish, and as well as a Silver Surfer board. So expect them to build out with whatever excess mats they have there, and then be ready to just fight in this 4th zone.
Is that a choice from Larice? I gotta wonder if he's not deciding to rock with the Marvel powers, but more on that later, as Felix and Freda are having an ultimate gatekeeping opportunity here on the north side of the safe zone at Coral Castle. Gonna do a nice chase down here, and that person is just trying to fight for this match lives. Quavery unable to utilize any kind of mobility. I mean, he did have the Silver Surfer, but he did use it to vault over the waterfall. So when it's being stuck on the cooldown, it's something we got to talk about as well. Managing cooldowns, which is a new layer into, let's just, you know what? I just love Fortnite. They're like, you know, we know our game has a lot of actions per minute. Let's just add some more. Let's just make things a little bit more interesting and add a new wrinkle to the dance.
And it's really interesting to see how they're able to incorporate it as we see now. Unibeam coming out, Silver Surfer board trying to be used to rotate towards this outside as the other Marvel powers are going to end up knocking Freddy down. And now Felix probably regretting leaving those chug splashes back in the zone as he's going to rely pretty much solely on his shield health here with only 28 green HP or white HP. Those are the tags that end up coming out there. You can see that, the green bar on the bottom. See Orb and Demon Jetsku great position on the side to be able to rain down shots here. Instead, going to opt Silver Surfer board directly on top of him. Good 54 shield tag right away. Already sitting on 5 eliminations as well. We can expect to see some decent aggression over the course of these kind of early games, and then the players with the higher points will begin to be matched out, and we'll probably see a little bit of denser lobbies. But right now, with the 4th zone revealed, Sancho, everyone's just trying to rotate in and get their territory on the edge.
Absolutely. As the tournament goes later and later into the day, the games are going to be a lot more stacked, and that's when we're going to expect a little bit of a great mixture of the FNCS competitive scene kind of colliding with the Marvel powers, and this is it. This is what we're seeing. Unibeams going all the way across layers. I can't imagine what's going to be like when the fight for height, when it gets into those chaotic end games, and how you would think a double tarp made out of metal is going to be safe, but not so fast. A Unibeam could disintegrate all of it in one blast, and that's going to be interesting to see how it goes down. But now we're just seeing a great mixture of traditional play and a lot of mistakes happening, people leaving up their edits, and I think sometimes it could be overwhelming and a little bit scary to hear Unibeam going up, and now you have Thor's Mjolnir coming in, and that's a nice disappearing act with that use of the Silver Surfboard. And oh my goodness, I like what I'm seeing here from Sniping Akusto.
Really good job from Sipe loading it up there. I mean, first, the burst shots he hit over there onto Darker were just fantastic, but then recognizing where the opponents were, unable to combo on the first player who utilized the Silver Surfer out, but a really good job of just pressuring opponents in the builds. The difference with the Thor's Mjolnir strike, it comes vertically down, which is great for harassing that high ground like you talked about, but it makes it so much harder to kind of instantly defend and rebuild. We've talked about kind of similarities to some older Fortnite weapons going through. It's the Junk Rift, Sancho.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's the Thor hammer coming
yeah.
directly down from the sky. It's just so hard to combat against. But right now, Sipe using all of his tools with a nice little jump shot there with the epic pump. And they also pulled that 5th zone, the half in, half out. So you can expect them to try and get whatever excess resources possible and kind of expand out their base, because players are going to begin rotating into them, as we're going to rotate on over to Shagrin and Cullum.
And this is exactly pulled half in and half out. The 5th zone is going to be half in the safe zone, half into the storm. And now you're seeing, for the first time, if you're watching, a lot of Marvel fans out there, maybe the first time watching Marvel Fortnite competitive here. This is where things get a little spicy. All the people that are not safe are going to make these dangerous rotations, and a double Thor hammer. Okay, went to Unibeam. Okay, combo wombos left and right, Sundown.
Just the double Thor Mjolnir strike. Again, we've talked about it, very similar to the Junk Rifts. It's a little hard to defend against, and particularly with the limited amount of builds here, it burns through right away. If you're able to force somebody to kind of have to build up 2 new boxes, all of a sudden, that's a much larger percentage of their builds than it traditionally would be. As you can see right now, Dezinho and Lariz boxed up on the high ground. The question is, did they go too early with the limited amount of resources and the number of Marvel powers that are going to be able to pressure? As you can see, Colm and Shagger trying to utilize the crash pads to force somebody back down their level, but not quite finding it.
The mat caps have been lowered to 200, 200, 200 versus 500, 500, 500. So it's essentially cut in half as Shagger picks up a nice knock with the shotgun blast. So that is what they're dealing with, as well as the siphon has been lowered from the mat per elimination to 20-20-20. So that's the kind of things that, all these, Dezinho and Lariz, they've competed together in a lot in FNCS tournaments, and they are used to those kinds of things. But they're definitely used to these rotations, and considering that they're sitting at height at the moment, they have a really nice priority to that zone, considering it is in the northeast. Let's take a look around who is in this match. We have various players who are not exactly have the front priority, so there's going to be some crazy rotation here. The story here for Shag and Cullum is, can they make it, sitting that they're sitting dead center Sundown?
The one thing I want to note is Shagrin has the 3 floppers, has Thor's Mjolnir strike, as well as the Silver Surfer. So if he does end up having an opportunity in the late game to kind of go for that high ground, he has plenty of utility, and you can actually see he's going to opt to drop the Mjolnir strike, the aggressive Marvel power, to then he's actually going to drop the Shockwave as well to pick up more utility in the form of shield. So it looks like he's trying to set himself up for a heal off or a late high ground take, utilizing the Silver Surfer board up on the high ground and we still have Luis and Dezino. No, they've actually left. It's Restiel and Nerone who are just above them. So the Become Legends player has been forced off of the priority position. Chagrin going to get a refresh there onto Rayox as well. That's their 4th elimination, 47 points so far. And again, don't forget, every single duo that drops is an additional placement coming through, and a great double shotgun coming out there. We talk about the combos. Well, sometimes it's just all about the weaponry and the gun skill, as they own a bunch of this space. Good wall replace as well. Got the wall replace on the inside. They're trying to force everyone to kind of rotate through this building. Unibeam comes out, not quite going to find a target. Instead, opens one up. Chagrin says, no, this is too dicey for me. Silver Surfer boards out, but not quite going to necessarily find the space that he wants. And only down to 2 mats now, Sancho.
And you got to be dangerous using Unibeam on that low ground. You may bring a lot more competitors than you expect. Now the rotation is going to go north onto the beach side of things of Sweaty Sands. It is the 7th zone. Chagrin and Cullum, we've been seeing by being on this low ground to mid ground level, you could rack up a lot of elims here because a lot of people are going to be in shambles. The interesting question is, what's it going to look like with the Marvel powers in play? We already saw a couple competitors drop Thor's hammer, and we all know that could be a big factor. Buggy here, having the silver surfboard as well as Groot's Bramble is in a tough spot. Now it's going to go solo. Can he clutch and rack up those unnecessary points? And you're hearing Unibeam going off left and right. It is 9 players, 8 players left, 5 placements left here, Sundown.
But it pulled back. The zone pulled back, so while everyone else was on the front end of the zone and just getting put into a blender by Cola. 1, 2, 3, 4 elims going off from him there real quick. Buggy all of a sudden now is priority position on everyone else who over-rotated, and you can see him putting the punish in. 1 and 2 elims going into him, and all of a sudden it goes from top 6 to top 3, and it's a 1v1v1, and Buggy up on the high ground has the epic pump, and right away Restiel gets knocked off of the wave. Silver Surfer trying to ride to the height, and Buggy back to back slaps down the wannabes. He says, today I am the Silver Surfer, I'm the owner of the high ground, and I'll be taking match number 1 here on the broadcast of the Marvel Super Cup EU region.
Wow, the herald of Galactus, the Marvel power of the Silver Surfboard, ringing true when you all thought it was all said and done. The solo clutch, you called it, Sundown. Over rotation, that was hype. Alrighty, dighty. Let's see who's gonna rise to the top. 1 Marvel power at a time, 1 brick, 1 wood, 1 metal build at a time. But we're gonna go through a lot of games here, and eventually we'll find out who is gonna be the Marvel Super Cup champion. Thank you so much for joining with us today on this beautiful Saturday, or wherever the day is around the world. Sundown, it's looking good today. What an exciting start to today's broadcast.
What an exciting start, and I'm just enjoying the amalgamation and seeing this combination of competitive Fortnite play, the Marvel powers, the end games, all of the early skirmishes. You already see Unibeams flying all over the place here. So we're going to drop on into Stark Industries on board here. Zypher Pache getting lit up from each one of the sides, trying to rotate over to his duo right away. Has a decent early game loadout here in terms of the rare weaponry, but no powers on deck yet, so going to be at a disadvantage to anybody who's able to find him. You can see somebody closing the gap right away. Pache going to go down there. That's Chapix closing the gap there, one of our very well-known European players, and he's going to be able to close that right away. You can see BL Hen 1, if that is the actual Hen, one of the strongest players in the world right now. The Become Legends player has been dominant since his Cash Cup victory on his birthday, and looking to continue it here in the Super Cup.
And speaking of birthdays, a shout out to happy belated birthday. If I don't know, Reverse 2K, happy belated birthday out there. Turning 20 years old. Now, congratulations. You are a boomer in the Fortnite world. Retire soon. I'm just kidding. No, it's so exciting to see all of our favorite people. And what I wanted to talk about as well is that this kind of tournament here, Sundown, is going to give players that normally don't compete in the FNCS competitive scene a little taste of that. And I kind of talked to you in private about how the Marvel Knockout LTMs, the Ghost Rider Cup, the Black Widow Cup, all those things, the Daredevil Cup, gave me that sense of rush of what it feels like to be a competitor going up against, this kind of a setting. And that's what I'm excited to see. Maybe it'll be a new name that we've never seen standing on top of the board today. And that's going to be exciting because that could potentially maybe launch their content creative career, maybe launch them into the Fortnite competitive scene. And after they got this nice taste, that sweet taste of victory.
And I mean, we've talked about just different ways to compete, and I always go back to the fall skirmish of old and how there was a bunch of different type of like competitions and mini games, but so many different competitive players got their start from there. Use the example of the World Cup runner-up Rojo 11, aka Smash Dave, now who we saw win that wild card match. Ended up just pushing through and getting kind of in that submission. But right now, back to matters at hand. Chapix just gets bonked by Synox, utilizing the group Bramble Shield to close the gap there. Then the legendary pump doing what it does best, hitting some huge shots. Now it's going to all be on Hen to 1v2, and we've talked about just how good Become Legends youngster has been, but can Synox put him on a poster early? And he does. And we talk about getting those moments, getting your name out there. Synox, you effectively just 1v2'd two of the strongest players in Europe. Very well done there.
Hey, man, there's a lot of great players in the Fortnite competitive scene. Yeah, maybe they spend some time playing pubs. Yeah, maybe they spend some time messing around with the Marble Knockout LTS, but they got some skill, and that's what I'm excited to see, who's going to be able to do these things. But to steal a joke from one of my favorite NBA basketball players, Manu Ginobili, everybody gets on a poster, everybody gets blocked, everybody gets dunked. It's all good. But when it happens on the Fortnite broadcast, hey, a little bit of something special, a little bit of spice right there. But now we're seeing Whole Arm Wartel with a little bit of a slow start to today's day, but hey, plenty of time to turn that around. You effectively have a set of matches to get up into the top of the board, but as sooner or later, you're going to have to kick it up a notch here. And let's see if Wartel and Derek Dorbrick could do that.
And you talked a little bit about the format there. For those unfamiliar, it's one of the kind of more traditional open queues, and what we mean by open queues isn't necessarily that anybody who's able to go in, but it's not just 100 people per the lobby. So all the players who qualified, in this case the top 1,000, aka the top 500 duos, you get 3 hours to queue up for 10 matches, and you're not restricted to only being in the same lobby with the 100 players. So you'll be able to kind of rotate through, you're able to queue up kind of at your own pace and to make sure you're getting in matches with players who are around your point level. But right now you can see Wartel utilizing the combination Silver Surfer to close the gap, then Thor's Mjolnir strike from above to break down the builds, trying to keep the pressure on as he's going to begin to run through a lot of his builds. Already used half of his 60 available ones here to try and create the pressure down. Good little 32 tag, and we see defensive chug splashes coming out already. That should signal the go.
I like that combo. That was hot, man. That was a very creative combo that maybe would have worked if... Ooh, there you go. Now you're creating some more pressure. There goes the Silver Surfboard just to get away from the pressure, but only one teammate's able to get away, and here it is. The chase is on. Now, the cooldown's going to be on Thor's hammer for a bit. You can kind of get that ready and go again, but close the gap with the Silver Surfboard into Thor's hammer, that was nice to see. If he only connected with that Thor's hammer, I think this engagement, but hey, you got to remember the fundamentals and build. Don't get too greedy because someone could kind of beam you in the back, and that's what's going down with Wardle as Maslick now is on the offensive.
Yeah, and you can just see how dangerous it can be now, down to only 14 builds. Going to utilize Thor's Mjolnir strike to try and drop everybody down, but instead misses the water, falls off of the side of the bridge, says, ouch, that one hurts. Now going to be forced over to his partner, utilize his builds. Don't forget, if you are a duo, you can share those edits, so you can edit your duo's builds, get inside that same box. And while Wardle is popping his shields and getting back, you can see Derek actually opting to aggressively shockwave in. Wartel doesn't have a way over yet, as the Silver Surfer board is still on cooldown. It's a little bit of one of those shorter cooldowns. However, it is still there. You can see the Mjolnir strike coming out from Derek. However, he's going to go down. 248 white tags, though. Signal to go again. And as soon as that Silver Surfer is off cooldown, Mastic ends up getting dropped on top of his head in a good trade out from Wartel, but with only 10 builds and now taking white HP as well, he's going to need to disengage back over to his partner. Good rotation of the ability there, opting to pick up the Bramble Shield to then get over, but can he cover? Because if anybody is able to get a Unibeam, a Mjolnir strike over a Mystical Bomb, they're going to be in such a tough spot.
And you already see the third party coming in with the Silver Surfboard, and that is Twitter Sem46_ being aggressive alongside with this duo mate Wampy, and they're able to close that out quickly. That's how dangerous these Marvel powers are. If you don't have the experience of the glider redeploy of the lore days of the Fortnite world, if you don't have that experience, you could see how their timing is a little bit off, and that is what's going to be interesting to see going forward. All of this is what I love about Fortnite, is the ability to have to be adaptive is an underutilized skill, and Fortnite loves to throw curveballs just to make things fun. and to give other people an opportunity to compete. And I feel like these curveballs are going to have some new names, and that's what's really cool about this.
And I'm also of the opinion that the best Fortnite player in the world, and the title of that, is regardless of game mode, right? And I think you can say that to the format between solos or duos or trios, the way I objectively look at it. Like, in my opinion, is the person who performs best regardless of if they are solo or if they are playing in the Marvel Super Cup or if they are playing in the duos or trios, because all of those are applicable Fortnite skills. It's one of the reasons why I have so much appreciation for Mr. Fresh Asian, somebody who plays in quite literally everything from pubs to arena to these tournament modes and have great abilities. And right now, double unibeam right away. We talked about it, boxing up, solo on the side, effectively signals the dinner bell, and right there, Tutty and Desire going to be able to combo it out and clean up as Arzox goes down.
Hey, you got to talk about a single Iron Man unibeam. It has collateral damage. It could go through multiple competitors at the same time. So if you're stacked and sitting next to each other in a box, one unibeam could effectively put 180 HP damage across 2 players. So that is something that Desire did right there alongside with this duo mate, Tutley. And they have a decent start as well. They're one of those ones getting into the way, trying to get the start here. 8 points right now. And the way we're doing it here on the broadcast for Fortnite is we're going to... Oh, no, not Scooby-Doo. The whole thing what we're doing here on the broadcast is that we're going to jump in between all the kinds of games, and then once it gets closer and closer to the close of the queue times, we're going to try to find the ones who are in like close to winning the whole thing.
Yeah, and those menacing kids won't have a say in the rest of this match, as now Desire and Tutty are doing a great job cleaning up the elims here, and then also getting over and making sure they get whatever excess loot. They're doing a good job of ensuring they're up at maximum builds. Now, what does maximum builds mean? We've kind of talked about it. There is a lower mat cap than traditional competitive Fortnite. Normally, you have 500 available of each resource that you're able to farm up. In this circumstances, it is only 200, which means under that elimination counter next to his name, where you see kind of that little wrench in hammer, that's the total build numbers. It's going to be out of 60. So Desire sitting just below it. But what they're wanting right now is some excess heals and shields for Tutty. If he gets even sniffed by a unibeam, he's going to end up going down there. So right now, they're going to rotate through Stark Industries, try and hit the campfire here to top off on the white HP. Hopefully the smoke signal in the sky doesn't send off too much damage. But right now, a supply crate within distance.
And this is where it's interesting as well. We're going to have a in-game around Stark Industry POI. A lot of elevation. You're seeing a mountain in front of us. There's a big drop in elevation in these cliffs surrounding that POI. At the same time, hey, imagine, hear me out. Imagine if someone knew that someone had white tags, right, where no shield. You do a Venom smash and grab. You grab that person out of their safe zone with their partner. You pull them into your builds, and then you just get that elim right there. See, those are the kinds of things, as you've seen Desire getting that beam down. Wait, stop building out of solo boxes, especially trying to do it old school, sitting on the supply crate. That's just going to be an easy bait, easy feed, easy 5 points. But the point I want to make, I just feel right now, we're just scratching the surface with these Marvel powers. Everyone just goes, oh, Unibeam. I mean, that's what Ninja said at GlitchCon. He's like, Unibeam is by far the best Marvel power. But hey, you can't sleep on the other ones.
I'm wondering how long it's going to take until we get players who are reactively utilizing Storm's Whirlwind Blast against the Unibeam. I think there's no reason not to have a player holding that, particularly in the late game situation. You have the ability to negate incoming projectiles in fights, but more importantly, right, you can hold a Whirlwind Blast and a Unibeam, bait somebody intentionally into double Unibeaming you, negate the unibeam, and then just turn around and do it back. Like, there's levels to this, right? And we need to talk about who's going to actually be able to capitalize on those opportunities. We've so far just generally seen people defaulting down to the comfort of long-range unibeam. It does a ton of damage. It goes through builds. Seems pretty obvious. And here's the combo. 1 and 2 right away. And then they're going to try and follow it up with the spray pattern. Not sure if they were able to combine and connect. And you can see the player trying to disengage immediately. The Bramble shields coming out, but it's only a matter of time before you get chased down.
And there, yeah, you could definitely get your Bramble shield from group broken. So you have to be sure you could kind of look at that. And you talked about that mat cap, no doubt. Now they're down to soft mats here. And with a great use and offensive power right there with the Silver Surfboard, I love that. We all talked about its mobility, but the ability to break through builds is kind of like a bang. Yikes, man. That was a good thing right there. Able to pick up a elim using the silver surfboard, turning your attention immediately. You know that call was like, yo, there's a guy right here, double box, double U to beam, bang. Easy elims. And that is what you kind of need. I kind of feel like the locomotion of you, that momentum going forward, Cam, that is what's the kind of thing that's going to set you apart and get you up that leaderboard very quickly.
And we've talked about it just time and time again, why those are kind of the bread and butter of these competitive players. They've had a lot of experience with the silver surfboard, utilizing it in the early days of the arena mode. You can see if you insta-cancel it when you go off, it will still end up popping those builds. He was able to fly in behind the player. And of course, the unibeam with tracking down the limited builds make it so it's hard to kind of want to expand out your base, but it's going to end up being necessary. But now we're going to hop on board with some names I haven't seen in a hot minute. We talk about Fall Skirmish. We're going to throw it back to two people who actually competed in it. We're on board here with Dark Areno and Dollar C, and they're doing it the old-fashioned way right now. A good headshot snipe into the AR confirmation to get the elim there. That's their second one so far. 21 points on the day. So now they're going to try and close the gap here. Good little wall replace out, but it looks like the other player was able to just disengage.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. I think these kind of modes, these kind of competition brings back the old names. And nice breakdown with that Thor's hammer, breaking down that metal box. And before you know it, that's going to signal to the rest of the lobby. We talked about lobby focus in the FNCS competitive scene with the beams of the AR, but you're going to get Big Daddy Beam, aka Iron Man's Zuna Beam, in your front door. So be careful here. But now we're going to get a Stark Pawn ending, and we've been seeing throughout this entire FNCS competitive, Stark Pawn endings get kind of dicey, especially with all this water mass, but you have, like I mentioned, the surrounding mountains can cause a little bit of chaos too. So that is what's so dangerous of the Stark industry in-game.
Yeah, you see Yochai there getting a Mjolnir strike directly on top of his noggin from the heavens. Thor's hammer dropping down on top of it, but now you can see 746 looks like he's trying to set up for an ambush play. He might be setting up for Thor's Mjolnir strike into a pump right now. He does still have 40 builds as well as the Silver Surfer here. The player right next to him does own this wall. He's currently sitting on his Silver Surfer board. He did pull the next zone, so he doesn't really want to show that he's here. Dollar C also boxing up right next to him. He could opt to insta-cancel. Nope, instead just going to open and edit the wall. And Dollar C gets caught unaware. The confirmation as well. Good little ambush there from Sam sitting inside of his old builds. Now he's going to build out from the excess material Dollar C had there and have a good little position and base to move into this fourth zone.
Wait a minute, this ain't Iron Man. That can't be. That looks like a crash dummy unless Tony Stark working on some sort of mock, I don't know, some prototype suit. I doubt that's Iron Man. But hey, 17 points, a really good start so far. I know this is most likely early throws into the queues here as we're going to go forward and kind of keep track and look at the zone. Zone 4 is revealed a lot of it. That's what I mentioned. Stark Pond can eat up a lot of these safe zones going forward, and that's where the competitors are going to have to figure out. But as you see, they're kind of trying to figure out, trying to find somebody with this unibeam. They got it ready to go. You see that glow from the chest there from the big pug. And man, what a scary thought of having a pug dog with the unibeam power up. But it looks like they're going to kind of set this up. Now, it's not really necessary to edit because it will go through. They just want to get a clearer sight, and there it is. Clear beams going through, connecting with that elim.
Clear beams can't lose there, but the counter beam coming in, and we've talked about it. They know it's on cooldown. You can't return fire, so you better scavenge those resources quickly and then get out of dodge, create a different angle where you're not going to be able to get hit. You can see the fake Iron Man throwing it down. Some of the excess mini shields he has there for the big pug. They're going to try and create a little bit more space, but they need to be careful because they're a little bit far center here in terms of the fourth zone. So even if they pull half and half, other players are going to have priority over them on the top. And we are in that fourth zone. So fifth will be the next one where the fifth zone will intersect outside of the safe zone, and then we'll have the full moving circles for the late game as we get a nice little panoramic shot. Shout out to the observers giving us a lay of the land and figuring out where everyone is currently positioned over the Stark Pond as we see 2K dollars 3 in 01 eating a unibeam there and going to require some chug splash assistance from his teammate.
One thing I want to bring out, this kind of reminds me of the Chapter 1 days of the Infinity Blade with the planes coming in. natural terrain will be a great defense against the unit beam. Having that backside to you, so it's going to kind of free up, you can't unit beam through a mountain. So, like, I'm interested to see where do our competitors kind of pony up next to as you're seeing a unit beam. Oh my goodness, a wood build, one by out in the open, the unit beam comes through, but luckily that person was able just to get away by the skin of their teeth. And now they're running away from this great aggression from Snipe and $2K. But hey, they're getting a lot of attention. They don't have a crazy rotation that's half in and half out. But that half in and half out goes up a mountain, Sundown.
We talked about it there. Having the priority on that side is going to be so huge, but the Silver Surfer board being used right away to get over on the 4 side of the zone for eliminations, trying to make it 5 as the Bramble Shield will finally get broken there. Not going to give Iron Man the respite he needed. Groot letting down Tony Stark when he needed it the most. Suit gonna fail there. The mock, whatever, not good enough on the crash test dummy. He does his job going down, queuing right back on up, and now you can see Darkerino trying to do whatever he can. We saw Dollar Seat go down early. Here was who he went down to. Sem46 still has priority position, so we saw in our first match a brilliant solo effort to clutch it up. Can Sem repeat and just show how much EU is really the land of the solo player? As right now you can see trying to line up towards Minister right on the edge, and Yochai not gonna dodge it, going down just like the Yoheim there. Brilliantly done as Jamie now on the low ground trying to get some kind of pressure towards the outside.
Hey, and that is a free elim essentially, not having to use any kind of resources. Now your Thor's Hammer's on the cooldown. Knowing the range of the Thor's Hammer was just able to really get that cleanly, and there it is, Tan going in with the unit beam, and now you're seeing the elims popping off left and right. The zone is going to pull back up northwest here. It's going to go down into the river. So all our competitors who are kind of jockeying for that high ground on the mountain, now they're all of a sudden they have a really strong, like a dangerous rotation to make here. But Dan in here and sitting in the front zone priority, doing the old school way of getting in boxes, using their arsenal of laying down those beams and getting the elims. But I like that they have zone priority. Now the question is, if they catch someone going up for height, hey, unit beam, that's a great thing. You can break down builds and get that fall damage, because even though you have these Marvel powers, you're not completely a Marvel superhero. You are susceptible to gravity.
Yeah, you need to be careful in that regard unless you have one of those powers to bail you out. And we saw there the big pug finally got put on his leash. He was on a little bit of rampage on the low ground, but 12 duos remaining, 19 players left. Don't forget, once we're into the top 25, each duo eliminated is 1 point. Each elimination is worth 5, as Nike watches somebody meet their maker directly below him as he does the Silver Surfer rotation, proving he has a little bit of the better Surfer powers there. He's just going to box up, still has a third of his available builds, trying to find an angle, good AR spray towards the backside of the zone as he's already safe. He's going to find a big knock there onto Abu YouTube, but the Unibeam comes through, as well as I believe there was a Mjolnir strike to break out the builds. He's going to be forced through. That was half of his remaining builds. Instead, going to Shockwave towards the opposite side. Siphon comes through from his knock. That's his 4th elimination in a nice little brief bit of respite there for Nike Lima. So we're going to pan out towards the side and catch the rest of this end game.
It kind of reminds me of those movies where the kind of like the superheroes clash with like the citizens or the muggles of the world, and they kind of have to kind of use their essential, like their technology. So a shockwave grenade able to disengage to kind of survive just a little bit longer against the Marvel powers. So it's so fascinating to see all that happen. As Darkerino, who's lost Dollar Sea a long time ago, is still doing this business. 56 points of 69 points, looking really solid right now, and the ability to pick up a Unibeam. We talked about it, Sundown, in the FNCS Trio competitive. You are going to have to rack up points where you have no business racking up points, but Darkino could pull a thing and get that solo clutch victory royale.
And Darkerino again pulled priority zone 3 times in a row there, utilizing the shockwave towards the end and now getting ahead of it. You can see still 1 duo remaining up on the high ground, but making sure he's covering his points. And now it's a straight up 1v2, and he says, well, to the skies we go. Silver Surfer board up, not going to find it. Unibeam straight up knocking him down. He's going at him. He's saying, are you sure you guys are the 2? Because I want this shockwave up on the high ground as well, utilizing the hip fire spray. Finds a couple tags, 50 as well as a 30 white. Side goes down. Darkerino, excuse me?
Okay.
What? The
1v2, but we talk about utilization of Marvel powers. Silver Surfer's board up to the top. Iron Man straight up into the sky with the Unibeam, and then he swaps over to the Fortnite world. Shockwave grenade up, and then brilliant hipfire shots with the pump wall replace. The Tfue classic, and despite Dollar C getting picked off by Sem46 early on, Dark Areno says, don't worry, I got this, doing his best.
And where, but this is going to give us an overall picture. Janice, Reason, very familiar names, gentlemen. They're sitting at the top right now. They've got a Victory Royale, 33 eliminations, and 222 points.
Zeke, my dude, we talked about, you know, these powers kind of amplifying who you are as a player, and Giannis and Reason getting amplification right here and there. One Victory Royale, 33 elims, 222 points, but hey, look, Sundown, Raxor and Altor in third place right now.
Yeah, some names we've seen before, but also got to give a shout out there. The Big Bloomy, and then Tomzy, V1 Tomzy most recently played with Hen in the DreamHack duos going across the pond, and they had a fantastic performance. So some very well-known competitive names sitting in that top 3 right now, because again, at the end of the day, this is still a Battle Royale tournament, and these guys have plenty of experience as we flip on over to the next page. And again, some more familiar names as Sapphic and Virtus Pro Siberia Jake sitting in 6th. 7th, we have Seiko Vibes and Themo, Freak and Dervig in 8th, Virtus Pro Jamside and Gambit Tooth, the Russians in 9th, and then in 10th place, AOS, Bubak, and Enterprise Toby.
And man, we're gonna have some more pages here to go through, but I'm just taking a look at the elims and, you know, how that's all coming through. I mean, 5 points per elim is going to be a factor, and look at that, Victory Royales, 55 points. Seeing Refscar and Scram, I like seeing the people that were in the FNCS trio decided to try to make their claim here in the Marvel Super Cup. Yay! I always like the Marvel competitive scene, because where there's a tournament, they're going to throw it down and see what they can do.
And that's what Fortnite is about competing. That's kind of the tournament system and getting in there, and the fact that regardless of where you are in the region, you can be at your house, queue up in your pajamas, play the games, no entry fee required going through. And right now, you can see 16th through 20th players, Edison rounding it out, V Wolf HD and Uzi also in there, Gillar and Amos of IMV, Bra in Genesis in 16th right now, and we'll have one more page to show you. And I mean, these guys, there's plenty of names we've seen before, but some also players we necessarily haven't seen before.
And this is their moment to shine. This is their spotlight, and that's what's really awesome. Can they keep going and get away higher and higher in the leaderboard for the unfamiliar? A lot of these players is unfamiliar territory to be featured on the FNCS broadcast or here at the official Fortnite broadcast. That's going to be exciting. Keep the excitement going, everybody. It is the Marvel Super Cup, and we're getting into the throes of it. We're about 1/3 through for the open queues, and I am Sancho West alongside Sundown, and we've been seeing some awesome combo wombos, some awesome plays, but hey, don't forget, this is still Fortnite, and the Fortnite skills are going to be a huge factor. And we already saw Dark Areno making probably, I would say, the highlight of today's broadcast.
Definitely the highlight reel finish there with the 1v2, but still plenty of players on board, and we're going to hop on board here. Somebody who's inside of that top 10. It's Virtus Pro's Siberia Jake, copying a quick reboot onto Sapphic. You can already see him trying to drop some excess shields and loot there to make sure his partner isn't too vulnerable off of the start. And you can see Stark Industry been highly contested again. The vaults adding ton of utility shields and enabling you to get to the late game. The shockwaves being a huge value, but the Marvel powers are all over the map. And right now, hopping on board here with Stang, who instead of going with some Marvel powers is going with some clay powers there. You got the harpoon gun on board. He's going to close the gap there, pick up on the Pascu right away, and already an early 1v2 showing out, and might just be able to save his match here if he can wrap this up.
Yeah, we're seeing right now the top of the board is averaging elims between 6 and 7. Hey, the first appearance of Storm's Whirlwind Blast. Unable to get any kind of leverage in the fights, but that's going to be the signal for Stag to kind of back away for just a brief moment. And we talked about some of the Marvel powers not being fully utilized yet. Haven't really seen She-Hulk's Fist. Haven't seen Wolverine's Claws, but that's just been so far on the broadcast. We don't know someone's out there doing some Marvel-like nice little flick shot right then and there with the rare pump from Stag. We don't know if anyone's doing some sort of, crazy meta out there just yet, but they will appear if they advance later on in the day.
And I'd anticipate we see a lot more of kind of the melees utilized in the initial drop fights, and they're incredibly strong in kind of those first 50-50s right off of the start. And obviously, we can only watch kind of so many of those. But right now, Relvis and Krusty trying to close the gap, and they definitely have the better of assortment of powers here. You can see mobility coming out in the form of Groose Bramble Shield. Also have Thor's Mjolnir Strike trying to come down. They're trying to locate kind of where this player is right now. Going to utilize the Mjolnir Strike and say, surprise, no hiding here. White tag comes out. That's going to ring the dinner bell. And they're going to continue to try and get the disengage. Should know he's hiding right on this corner here. Checks the one corner. However, it was the wrong one. Hops right on in. Cone reset and Stang gonna go down there. Not marvelous enough today.
But the day is still young. We're still got a third of the open queues time gone. You still have some time. Turn it around. It's not set lobbies. These are open queues. We're going to keep making our way to the top of the board just as long as you will. If you're competing, good luck to all our competitors, and good luck if you're competing in NA East a little bit later on, where I myself, alongside with Clay, will bring you all the action. And the action still popping off here in the EU region as the gas canister goes down, pops off, and Harry is the brunt of that damage. And now Harry gets confirmed right there by the duo. Let's look at who's on the other side of this wall. It is Batiste and his duo mate being aggressive, and Quantox is trying to just avoid. And we already talked about how still everyone's being, because they know any revealing of where they are, a Unibeam's come through. Hey, Quanto, you got She-Hulk's fist, and if someone's in your box, you could essentially just get a quick elim. I'll be seeing if it can happen. Turn around, Quanto!
Good job building up right away, and instead goes to work with the shotgun, the big 160. Gonna get the confirm because he needs the siphon, not for the mats, but for the health, desperately, as he was down to just 17, but some good shots, keeping it a little stronger. He's gonna hold that little half edit in front of him. Notice the peanut butter edit, and then a pre-fire where you shoot anticipating that the player is going to break the build. Trader breaks it, and he catches some buckshot directly to the teeth there in Quantox. Great job closing that one out. He's going to pick up the reboot card and then try and rotate on over, as we're going to rotate on over to Plumberton just outside of the swamp here in the Silver Surfer board, trying to take height here. I believe this is Fusey, the Onyx player, with his name spelled backwards, and then Jaggy getting some good shots going on there. 33 tags onto the white HP will put that opponent within one shot range, but Jaggy gonna get forced down himself there, taking a bunch of fall damage as he doesn't have a defensive option. Knockdown coming here from Fusey, but not quite gonna find it as he turns his focus again in a great combo, knocking down Nav there.
And we got to kind of point out, you maybe use Unibeam, but it may be in a cooldown. So Fusi right now is going to have to use it the old school way. And they have Unibeam. Oh my goodness, the Unibeam comes through and the trade happens. Hey, sometimes the last ditch effort of Iron Man Unibeam, that could have been a factor. It would have got that collateral damage. Jaggy and Fusi had to feel a little bit of sigh of relief as they survived that Unibeam blast.
And this time, the Iron Man sacrifice was not enough, as 100% rather than 50% of his duo end up falling there. We're going to hop on board here. Navi, Patrick, and Virtus Pro Kiriachi, two of our more well-known competitors coming out of EU, currently sitting on 130 points. You can see there, rocking some floppers for the late game plays, as well as the Mjolnir Strike and the Silver Surfboard. In Kiriachi's rotation, kind of controlling the area around the sawmill. There is an upgrade bench over here, which makes it one of kind of more the desirable places on the map. But something to note, with the limited map caps, you can actually only hit so many of those upgrade tiers, just for a matter of fact, so you can't quite get all the way to a guaranteed legendary weapon. So right now what they're looking to do is to catch a little bit of that third party action. And when we say that, well, typically two parties are fighting, right? Those are the first. Third parties are the ones who are coming crashing in. And with these Marvel powers kind of enabling that a little bit more, whether it's the combination of the Unibeam or the Silver Surfer plus the Mjolnir Strike to change your angle a little bit. We see Jaggy pops the Silver Surfer board, and now he's just completely vulnerable. That cooldown isn't going to be available to get him out of dodge. you can see, Milner Strike comes through right away. Second one right away, and Jaggy goes down, and that's what we're talking about. Punishing the mistakes and utilizing what those Marvel powers give you to do. Jaggy is going to have to be rebooted or wait for his partner to be sent back to lobby with him, as a 37 tag comes out from Kiriachi, and he is no stranger to these fights. Patrick going to clean that one up, and Bubsy will go down as well.
It almost feels like our Fortnite pros in this EU region, and more in NA East as well, they have their own Marvel power. And that Marvel power is the ability to put you in a box, the ability to pressure you easily, get that piece control, all those kind of powers that they have. And that was just a quick cleanup for Kiriachi and Patrick, who had a pretty decent run the FNCS trios. Not particularly the success that they wanted, of course, but hey, we'll see if they walk away with the Marvel Super Cup champion. And that's a really fun title to have. You know, it's a fun thing to put on your socials. And if you are a fan of the EU region, you know Patrick and Kiriachi, they're good guys.
Hey, man, I want to cop a dub in anything I am competing in, man. That win feels good regardless. There's prize money on the line. But also, it's nice to put that tweet out there. It's nice to be like, yep, #1, put the prize money in the bracket, say you beat the rest of the region, get all the clout, get that winning moment at the end, especially when it's somebody who's able to either clutch up in the final moments or maybe not somebody you necessarily expected, or the continuation of some story and some legacy. There's always some form of connection coming through, and to me, it's what makes competitive Fortnite so exciting. Is yes, anything can happen, but there's still storylines in terms of how that person got there and what they were able to do accomplish, whether or not it's a longtime veteran seeking their retribution or somebody trying to get their first title, as we saw in the most recent FNCS trios with Mitro and Mongrel, kind of finally getting that signature W to put up on the shelf. This could be the signature W for one of these trios.
And at the same time, you got to talk about, you know, DreamHack with Kenzel going back to back. That was huge. A lot of the people had respect for Kenzel, but they were waiting, as you mentioned, for the signature victory ultimately. So now, let's just see who's going to walk away with the Marvel Super Cup here. Now we're on board here with this duo sitting outside of the Slurpy Swamp, or now in the heart of Slurpy Swamp, with Gilar and Amos from IMV.
Yeah, and this was another team who is in the top 10. Not somebody who I'm necessarily familiar with, but it has a good start to the day. And again, don't forget, we're not watching every single game. There are 500 duos who are competing all at once. That means there is up to 10 lobbies that are going on at a singular time. Those lobbies are going to shake out depending on the points over the course of this. So we'll be following along the action, watching as many games as we can during this 3-hour window. Then we'll go a little bit overboard to make sure the last final game's finished, because a full-length game of Fortnite is right around 26 minutes long, which means if a queue drops just right at that final moment, right before the queues close, then we need to make sure everyone's able to finish out their points. But right now you can see Amos and Giller just opting to wait on the backside of the zone, because there is another team who's going to rotate past them here.
And I got to say, like, the matches so far we've been watching here in the first third have been very quickly. Let's see if it gets this ambush here. I think that's the 200 Robaz. Oh my goodness. Utilizing that camera advantage, that right hand peek and going in hot. Nothing like a good old 200 HP blast right to the grill, and Snazzy goes down. And you mentioned it, unfamiliar with Amos and Gilar. Oh no! They're familiar with that third party that comes in, and they're going to have to hurry up because it's Kiriachi and Patrick coming in hot, and they're going to be very quick to wrap this up. But now another maybe possible fifth party out in the distance, and that was Owlsy's duo mate sitting there. But Patrick and Kiriachi looking very strong here, using so far I would say the meta of the superhero powers, and that is Unibeam and Silver Board, and that's going to happen right then and there. But here comes the fourth party.
And I think it makes sense when you're generally allocating about 2 slots to be able to utilize those Marvel powers, because you want to be able to have some form of shields in there. And it feels really, really, really tough to play the game without a pump and an AR when you're playing still a traditional Battle Royale sense. And I also want to give a slight correction. It was my mistake when we talked about the top 1,000 who are competing right here. That's the top 1,000 duos, not the top 1,000 players. So there's 2,000 players going on total, which means there's a possibility of 20 lobbies going on simultaneously. It's probably a little bit less than that as it gets staggered, but we'll be popping around and watching some of the top contenders getting into the matches and covering as many as possible. Again, if you are new here, it's a 3 hours worth of competition or 10 matches. Our duos have the ability to play whichever comes first, and right now some good unibeam harassment coming out. Patrick forcing them to angle up one way, and Kiriachi getting his aggression on, using the horizontal bouncer to close the gap here, going to utilize his own unibeam to put the pressure on, and now he's trying to close the gap and get within pump distance, because Kiriachi is one of the best wall-to-wall fighters in the game. You can see there Silver Surfer Board getting directly on the opposite side, trying to get the wall replaced and owning as many pieces as he can realistically allow without burning too many of his materials and already beginning to sneak in pump shots.
I gotta say, you know, Kiriachi and Patrick are now in what I like to call like a free flow. They're in this locomotion type action where everything is just coming instincts in front of them. So that is why they're pushing. Now they're back into the Fortnite instinct, and they're going to kind of take a breather and all of a sudden utilize the Marvel powers that they have. Out goes the unit beam. Does it connect? No connection just yet. But what is connecting is Kiriachi's pressure, and he gets a nice blast, but now Boomer goes down, and Kiriachi does draw the focus of another duo here sitting outside of Logjam. Kiriachi gets it. Patrick is out there in the distance, and they're going to get this nice siphon here, an opportunity here. But the good thing is, I would have to say, Sundown, is that they're in this Logjam warehouse. So any kind of unibeam, you're going to have to guess. So now it's going to be a good moment. Hey, the Reese Bush strategy here showing up.
The Reese Bush strategy, when we talk about it, that's a shout out to Reese Hub, one of the analysts who works so incredibly hard on competitive Fortnite. But he talked about it. He's like, hey, if you can't box up and can't be obvious, go sit in a bush. And the one thing I've really enjoyed about this Super Cup is it feels like there's a little bit more of traditional Battle Royale aspects to it, right? Where that natural cover of the houses means a little bit more. We're rotating through it and not wanting to break that, and knowing that, like, hey, if I can just sneak along and kind of follow this line. And I'm really enjoying kind of the little interactions it causes. We saw it right there with the ambush that they were able to put down onto Robabs and Snazy, but just hiding around the corner of a door. And it's something that necessarily you don't see as much in traditional competitive Fortnite, but is really coming into play here when you are forced and limited in your resources and kind of reach into your bag of tricks. Now, we've hit a significant threshold in this game. Looking in the top left corner of the screen, 24 out of 50 remaining is the number of duos who is left. Once we go below 25, every single duo that drops is a singular point. So not only if you're able to eliminate a full duo do you get the 5 points per elimination, but you get a point for the placement as well. As you can see, V-Wolf on the opposite end of some of that harassment there. Unibeams and Mjolnir strikes coming through, and Relvis is going to be the one who gets the credit.
I'm telling you, the more and more in time these players have, they have that natural ability, that gift in them to kind of utilize their powers and figure out strategies on the fly, and that adaptiveness is going to lead to their success here today. Again, a total of $1 million is being doled out across all regions, so a lot of money up for grabs, and that is what we're talking about here today on this Marvel Super Cup Saturday. And Patrick and Kiriachi now have some flows on their doorstep, and out goes the unibeam. No tags though. Relvis be able just to dodge, and Krusty surviving that, and now it's going to exchange back with a Mjolnir strike. Just misses there. Relvis right now on the defense, because now they draw the attention of another duo partner, and that is going to be a little bit scary here, because now you might have multiple unibeams coming your way, and that lobby focus just gets amplified with that ultra unibeam coming through. There it is. You saw the trajectory coming through, and almost tags content. Hey, it's time to get out of Dodge, and even though you're not going to be, oh my goodness, I guess water and Group's Bramble Shield just does not mix there, Sundown.
Yeah, it will stop that momentum going on, so you need to make sure you're trying to close that gap right away, as Relvis is going to be forced to burn a lot of utility. You see them grouping up to use the chug splashes, tried to utilize the 5Ds right there, and we're able to dodge out plenty of those unibeams. There is a little bit of kind of proactiveness to it. If you are at least facing that direction, you're able to react, but unfortunately, Kiriachi gets bogged down in a fight, and now you can see Patrick is able to clean up on the other side of that, but it's so difficult once one of your players is down to then fight 1v2, particularly against the Marvel powers. But Patrick going to do his best to stand up and be the hero needed, and instead he says, nope, not today, leaving his buddy out to dry. Sometimes the sidekick has to give himself over, and Patrick
Patrick will be the hero of this story as Kiriachi falls and leaves behind all of that excess utility.
It's kind of, that was like a not, I don't feel so good moment right there. All of a sudden it's like, just go, man, leave me, I'm not going to be able to survive. And he just bolts right out of there with that silver surfboard to survive. And that is the kind of play that you're going to need in these type of team-oriented Fortnite competitive. Being a solo player, now's your job is to kind of rely on placement, to kind of sneak your way, kind of stealth your way into those placement points, because they're already being doled out every time a duo team goes down. So that is why you're seeing, if you know math, there's a discrepancy. That means there's a lot of solo players running around here in this match.
Yeah, you can see at least 6 solos who are out and about currently on the map. But one of the big things to note is in the first 2 games we watched, it was still a solo player clutching up. And granted, a couple of things had to go right, had to get the right rotation and to pull a couple of key zones. But hey, as long as you're in the match, you always have a shot. And that's the aspect of Battle Royale. But right now we can see that 5th zone. Look in the bottom right-hand corner, zone number 5 out of 9. That's the first one where the new zone will kind of intersect with where the storm is. After that, zone 6 through 9 will be full moving, and that kind of signals the late game where all the utility and all the plays really get made. Currently 20 duos and 34 players remaining, so 6 solo riders trying to clutch up here.
And you're seeing already a lot of the lobby here has that max pull rotation. They're being very late. I think it's, you know, there's a lot of hesitation knowing that the Marvel superpowers, and maybe they're relying on the server. Ooh, that's what I'm saying. Relying on that silver surfboard. You can make your rotation, but that's going to allow the traditional gatekeepers or the people that are sitting at a decent height to kind of just track you and beam you out of the sky. And already a couple of elims coming through for this duo as they're perched up at a really decent opportunity. And now they're going to decide to make their very short rotation, going through the bush. And now they're looking really good already. 17 duos up, so this lobby is thinning out a little bit quicker, but that's expected, I would say, with the Marvel powers and with the great mix of these beams from the Fortnite ARs.
Yeah, you get a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more utility to make plays in the mid game, and that's what we're seeing as Patrick's movie ends here. He's not going to be a factor in this end game as now we reach it. Andretta and Flois on the low ground. Andretta, one of the most clutch players when it came to the Fortnite World Cup in that final solos week, put a stamp on it, winning 3 out of his first 5 games and effectively qualifying him right then and there. But can he be a hero today? As now we're going to flip on board here. Flodax and Bumkd. Dude, there's no one near them, Sancho. They have priority on the zone. There's not anybody, I was going to say the same zip code. There's not anybody in the same state, country, region. Like, hello?
I mean, that's what it is. It's just there is going to be these kind of players that kind of take advantage of their utility, their mobility, and Flowdats and Boom, realizing that everybody's in the skirmish, gets that priority, and now it's going to be an opportunity to just beam as much as possible. The good thing is the Silver Surfer has that ability to cancel out that mobility, so you could kind of survive and just dive down, but this is going to be an opportunity here. But Boom and Flowdax, yes, they have priority. They're going to have to capitalize on this situation. Maximize your elim output here so you could utilize that max output and get up the leaderboard. But as you can see, when it comes down to maintaining height in these situations, not a lot of materials to work with, so they're going to have to find a refresh, and a refresh fast.
I'm really disappointed that they didn't have a Unibeam or a Mjolnir strike there to just rain down terror on the far side of the zone. That would have been the combo they're looking for. They got so many great tags, but all those players were just able to quickly box up. However, making sure they maintain priority positioning. Looks like they're trying to play for that first place, and what they're doing is they're making sure they're holding the high ground, then combining their bouncers with the Marvel powers to stay in front on the high ground. They've yet to effectively be threatened or be shot back at, and that's the key. Regardless of how many eliminations you end up confirming, if you're never threatened towards the end, it makes it that much easier to secure the victory. And a good job right now by Bume to secure the foreground with Flodax. They're reaching back, connecting with the wooden builds, and this is textbook right now.
Absolutely textbook to lead them to the victory royale. That's worth 55 points. 185 so far in these open queues for the Marvel Super Cup. As we're getting closer and closer to this in-game situation, Losens gets knocked right here, but Boom and Flowdash are putting the work on this lobby here, utilizing the Marvel powers, getting into that front zone priority, turning and burning. But hey, stranger things could happen. It's a 2v2 situation here, and it gets closed out so quickly by Flodax and Boom QD.
Great job by them to just maintain the foreground position. The fact that they were really uncontested from that 6th zone on, and everyone had to burn their cooldowns to even get close to them. They were able to save the surfboards, save the bouncers, and then just go to work with the legendary pump in the AR on all the players who were.
Thank you so much, Zeke, and here we go. Hey, I don't know if you guys know this, for the people out there in the Fortnite fam, but Galactus is coming, and this is a prime time way to get ready, to get all the Marvel powers, because who knows what's it going to take when he shows up, the Devourer of Worlds. And that is going to be super scary, Sundown, when he gets here.
I mean, we've talked about it before, the fight or flight reflex. Obviously, a lot of the Marvel powers of Fortnite players, all about the fight reflex. I am much more of a commentate from a safe distance away, so while everyone else is gearing up for the fight, I'll be doing my best to observe and make sure, I'll root you on from the sideline. I'll be your biggest cheerleader as we have an epic battle going on itself inside Stark Industries Civil War 2.0 going on in here right now, as a ton of players midway through realizing, like, maybe they got to put the pedal to the metal a little bit and push and chase after those elimination points, as a who's who of some players you can see. Serenity Akusto, Jibo, Lotex, and Jack already sitting on 5 eliminations combined between them. You can see Iron Man in there will still hold the Unibeam as well as the Valky on the inside, but Lotex gonna back up, and so far doing all of the work here with the epic revolver and the rare shotgun.
And there it is, Lotex. I mean, with the essentially the way it's worked, now that the Marvel powers are available everywhere, Stark Industries is still a hot spot. You know, it's become like a Tilted Tower 2.0 in the Marvel Super Cup, because you know people are going to be there. And not to mention, the Vault is still a strong factor to pick up the power Fortnite weapons, the strong shotguns, the mobility. You get a lot of medium ammo fighting in this POI. So that is why, for those of people who are home, like, I don't understand why so many people are here. Well, you know, it's going to draw a lot of attention, and you're going to be able to have these pop-off games. 5 elims with 25 points racking in, that's a big game here, considering that this could be their key game, their aggressive game, because they do have 10 matches to work with, Sundown.
And they're gonna need to put the pedal to the metal right now. As you can see, their total number of tournament points is to the left of his name in the yellow there. That's 61. And while everyone here does get a little bit of money today, you want that #1 spot, which currently is about 5 times their point total. So if they want to get on pace, they need to do it quickly, as we are just over halfway through our queuing time in the competition. Again, 3 hours or 10 matches, whichever ends up coming first, and they've got a little under an hour and 20 minutes remaining to get those matches in.
And we're already seeing, you want, maybe a sneak peek at the leaderboard. Some of the big names are up there. Cannot wait to take a peek of it. We do a couple of games here and there, and then we check in with the leaderboard, and it's all going to come down. Of course, once the queues close, then essentially what we're going to do is we're going to still have a little bit leftovers here. And sometimes that leftovers, you're going to see some people clutch and maybe get that victory royale to kind of walk away with the grand prize of the Marvel Super Cup. And that is what's exciting right here. But now we're still on board here with Lotex. Anyone who's played Fortnite had these hot starts before. When you lose your duo mate, you had a good start, you racked up a lot of points. So the question is, can you pull up? You go for the reboot, because that's going to sound alarm that the entire region, this little area, to let you know that, hey, one of my players is low. And Lotex, oh my goodness, that was kind of scary. I mean, it just looks like it just whiffed right then and there.
And he does, however, opt to go for the aggressive trade on the backside. In fact, I think he ended up knocking. No, he was able to knock Iron Man over on the side. So what he's doing is he's just going to secure the Unibeam that ends up coming guaranteed. No, instead going to grab the Arcane Gauntlets, which I'm not sure if I necessarily agree on in a 1v2 situation, but trying to, not sure what's going on there. Looked like that first instance in Iron Man 1 when Tony Stark is in the lab, just trying to get everything hooked up, and then boom, straight over to the side, bonks his head on the ceiling, falls on the ground, and Lotex going to go down there. And we're going to rotate on over here to Dovin and Ponzi, who are hitting the rift and heading on over towards Stark Industries.
And I'm very excited, to see how this all ends here for the EU region, but I'm also excited for the NA East. NA East is coming up soon, right after the end of the EU, after a little break. And there we're going to see some of the content creators that are very popular in the Fortnite world kind of make an appearance. You know, the Cypher PKs, the Hawkmans. We're going to, who knows? I did see some tweets at Cloaksy and Nick Merckx may make a return. This might be an opportunity for them to make a comeback. And happy birthday to Nick Merckx today. So this is going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. But what's unfolding in front of us right here is we're seeing a lot of meta being utilized. But at the same time, you cannot forget the fundamentals of Fortnite, and that's what Ponty just did right in there with the great box aggression, getting a nice clean pump with that green right there. Dovin and Ponty coming in as the late joiners into this fight here at Stark Industry.
Yep, showing up, trying to crash the party, which is something we've seen very frequently in both Comp and Arena. It's been something that's something of a thing since Bolts have been around, kind of the third party to get in to these power and mythic POIs coming in late, as there's always some either excess utility or people who are struggling from the initial horde who end up dropping here and trying to get as much control, and some quick upgrades coming over as a pair of elims to Ponty and Dovin will effectively double their amount of points on the day, as well as give them a decent amount of loot to continue on here. Going to opt to Shockwave forward, just burn that one out and continue the chase.
Yeah, anyone that lands up at Stark Pond did find success in the FNCS trios, making their way here down south just a little bit. Not only that, able to get into the vault to get any kind of the leftovers, a scavenger route that's amplified. I guess that's my word of the day today, in that vault. So all that loot right there that's left behind could be utilized. But let's see if Ponty and Dovin can move up the leaderboard. This is open queues. So many matches happening throughout the entire 3 hours, and we're going to see some big names here and there sprinkled in. But the more and more we go in the broadcast, we're going to see the big names appear. And this is Queasy. I'm not sure it is the Queasy. Could be a fan, not sure. But rocking with Boomer 29, taking a little bit of a slow start here. 22 points. They gotta kick it up. But the thing is, Sundown, with the way this placement points combined with that, the elims 5 points, it could totally happen. 55 points of Victory Royale. We already saw a 10 elim game previously. That's over 100 points, and that would definitely vulture up the leaderboards easy.
Yeah, and particularly with the 5 points per elimination, if you are able to just get one of those massive games, we've seen it time and time again. This format is very, very similar to what we've seen the DreamHack duos as of late. And if you get just one of those big elimination matches, combining it with the Victory Royale, it's not impossible to sometimes see almost a triple-digit jump occurring in some of these games, right? Like we've had those 100-plus point games end up coming through in the form of like a 12 elimination Victory Royale. That puts you there, and it can put you right back in the competition. But the question is, do the players at the top fall off enough when they end up kind of in those higher point lobbies? And there's a little bit of a push and pull from the bottom of the leaderboard to the top.
And we did confirm that is the real Queasy making an appearance here. So Queasy, a little bit of a, like I mentioned, a slow start, but as soon as a pro player could figure out what to do with these Marvel powers and how it blends in with their playstyle, then they could start cooking, and they could definitely microwave and get hot. And like you mentioned, Sundown, get the triple digits. But let's see, they're going to probably set up an ambush play. Queasy, a lot of mobility. A lot of mobility from the Fortnite world and a lot of mobility from the Marvel world. All in his back pocket. 6 shockwaves. But the thing is, when they're going to go for the Mega Shockwave play to close the distance and combine with the Silver Surfboard. Now they're in this fight and a kind of bop from the heavens and a bop, bop. Elim right there, City. 5 points. Queasy. And now you're figuring it out. And now I'm expecting maybe this could be the pop-off game that Queasy and Boomer need.
That was a bop from the top. They dropped down, Queasy and Boomer, and then they said, stop what you're doing. You're running into not just Marvel powers here, but some Fortnite powers on the other side. Great combination of the two. We talked about being able to change up the angle. That's a bouncer plus a shockwave. So explain to somebody who doesn't necessarily watch a ton of competitive Fortnite. The bouncer inside of the box will maintain your momentum. So you let it go off a couple times, then you end up shockwaving yourself forward. What that does, it'll put you in the air with fall immunity, and it launches you farther than just one of the two, right? So then he utilized the Silver Surfer to change the angle to make sure he came down directly on top and above his opponent, and that was enabled him to take the fight. So great job there, as now we're going to close in. Kiko and Nate already sitting on 4 eliminations. First shot of the Unibeam, not going to find it, but that's Ponty who ends up going down there. So while him and Dovin had a good start to the match, looks like they're running into a little bit of a blender right now.
This is what I like. The opening engagement with the Iron Man's Unibeam, you kind of get one into, like, just cause a little chaos, but this is what I would like to see. A little bit of a slowdown. Like, all right, we got one Unibeam, maybe a staggered Unibeam. We talked about that, kind of managing cooldowns. It kind of reminds me of other games that have these abilities where you're having mass DPS, damage per second, sent towards builds. And as you see, Kiko's picking up Knight. It's a matter of moments as Nate is going to go in for his elim on this duo here. But that's what I would like to see. One Unibeam go in and then another go in. So that way that pressure just feels like there's multiple Unibeams just coming in constantly.
And one of the things to note too here is we've seen is generally a lot of Unibeam and Silver Surfer, but when you take to the skies after, particularly if these players have those Stark Industry rifles, the aim down sights gives you an incredibly quick first shot accuracy reset. It's something very akin to the infantry rifle of old, and it makes it that much easier to just kind of shoot you out of the sky. So while we've seen some great alley-oops with the Unibeam, the Silver Surfer board sometimes not necessarily allowing to escape as well or as effective as you would think, because these players are just so incredibly efficient at landing their shots. Now we're going to hop on board here. Sipe and Seiko, 6 eliminations, so majority of their points again coming from this game, trying to play catch up here so far on the rest of the field.
And we did seek a look at Groot's Bramble Shield, and in the words of Groot, and let me speak in his language, I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot. Sundown.
Yeah, so what Sancho just said there, because I have a little bit of translation to his language. It's not great, but he's trying to explain that while the Bramble Shield is very effective at times, he's only been able to put so much development into it that it will still break. So the trade-off there is it gives you some of the healing while you're in it, but it's not completely invulnerable. So it's a little bit of a better option when rotating in those situations where you're trying to get out of dodge compared to the Silver Surfer, unless you're able to change the angle. That was that really emphatic Groot at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we're trying to, this is a intergalactic type of broadcast. We're crossing a lot of parallels, a lot of universes colliding here, and the ultimate Devourer of Worlds is coming on December 1st. I am scared, man. When I saw that first tease in the beginning of the season, I was like, are they really, is really Galactus coming to the Fortnite Island? And yes, he is coming, and that is going to be a super scary event that's going to happen on December 1st. I'm hyped that's going to happen at 4 p.m. Eastern. I cannot wait to share that with my community. As we've been seeing Pepe and Snipe here doing some really good things here, and that was what we're talking about, going right into that, getting close and personal with the Silver Surfboard, and getting a lot more dangerous with Thor's Hammer Strike. And that was a nice close to that engagement. I like that.
Yeah, brilliantly done there. So what they did is they waited to see the Unibeam go out, and we've talked about it before, how if you open up with the Unibeam, you better be hitting somebody, because it then leaves you available to kind of abusing that cooldown when it's down. So he popped the Silver Surfer right away so he could drop down on top of him. His partner threw a Unibeam across. Thor's Mjolnir Strike, it comes down directly on top of him. There's not a lot you're going to be able to do to disengage from that situation.
We're seeing a lot of worthy plays happening here, as they're already, this lobby is thinned out so quickly, and I think as more players figure it out, you mentioned more elims are happening in mid-game. It's essentially turning everything upside down, it feels like. Traditionally, the Fortnite competitive scene, you would see a spike in the elims at the beginning and at the very end, but now there's going to be so many other spikes and earthquakes happening as Pyro getting that unit being hit right then and there, and now it's a 2v1 situation. As you see in the feed, Nate gets knocked, but Pyro and Zach's BST are putting in the work.
And something to note, this is a lot thinner lobby than a lot of the other ones. We saw players being much more aggressive here in terms of the early and the mid game, trying to put their
pedal to the metal a little bit, foot on the gas, catch up to those who are really the ones setting the pace, as Pyro going to be able to sidestep Sipe's unit beam there. Good awareness to make sure he didn't take that 90 damage that likely would have signaled it through. However, on the flip side of that, Zach's going to catch the opening on the other side. He's going to get taken down. That's Sipe again being able to return the fire, going through, closing the gap. However, Pyro returns the favor of Sipe, unable to get the finish, and Pyro comes to the rescue with that epic pump shotgun.
I think no doubt when we saw this match here is like there was a lot of people dropping into Stark Industry. Like I mentioned, it's a hot zone. It's Tilted Tower 2.0, Polar Peak 2.0, whatever you want to call it. It is essentially going to be a beacon for a lot of people who are looking for one of those games to kind of make their way back. And if you could get a lot of elims and survive that first crazy engagement that Stark Industries can be, you could set yourself up for a very solid game. And like we mentioned, those triple-digit games could kind of get you up this is a Marvel Super Cup, but there's still money on the line. Over there's exactly $1 million being doled out across all regions throughout the world, and this is where it's on the line for these players. So you're seeing these Marvel powers go left and right and things like that, but it's still at the same time, it is a competition, and that's what's exciting to see, that who's going to be on top. I cannot wait to bring back my boy Zeke to talk about that leaderboard, because I'm excited to see who's sitting up top right now.
But right now, sitting on top of this lobby on the high ground is Pyro and Zax as they rotate through that south side. We can see Unibeams off in the distance signaling, still plenty of fights, but with only 9 duos left, these engagements are actually going to be a little bit riskier, because if you are boxed up, the Unibeam is going to be able to expose you. Actually, just 7 duos remaining now, 13 players in the lobby.
This is kind of feeling like a little bit of an arena match in the sense, but it's just showing you how powerful the Marvel powers can be in the hands of greatness. And these powers are being used very dangerously and responsively. So that is why we're seeing this lobby that's going to be closed out very, very soon. Soon we will find out who's going to be sitting on top of the leaderboard, and soon we'll follow who's going to be able to take it all here in the EU side of things. And after that, we're going to have NA East. Now we're on board here with this duo team, kind of trying to lay down snipes, beams, trying to looking for those white tags for them to full send it in. I think that has been so far we've been seeing Sundown. A lot of full send momentum going in. 12 elims for Panic and Homeo Ender. Looking really solid. And any white tags, I'm predicting Panic to go right in with that silver surfboard. And then, you know what's very interesting as well? We always talked about the doom and gloom of a Stark ending, right? But with these Marvel powers, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You just have a silver surfboard in your back pocket, and before you know it, you're back up the cliff.
Yeah, it makes it just a little bit less obnoxious to try and rotate up at the side, especially given the fact that you would have limited builds normally to be able to utilize. And you can also see that that fourth zone is pulling almost completely over the top, so we'll need to be a little wary of kind of the eastern potential pull for the fifth zone, which would be the half in, half out. But again, with only 7 duos remaining and now 14 players left, to me that indicates somebody in Steamy Stacks was just rebooted. So right now, Panic and Ender just trying to rain shots down from above, utilizing the Epic Burst Rifle and the Epic Stark Industries Rifle to kind of keep their opponents pinned. It's one of the best combinations in terms of being able to actually harass walls and actually convert onto some of these eliminations. As you see, El Bandito is going to be dropped right there, not going to be stealing anything. The Bandit will be out of this match as his opponent, or as his duo is just going to leave him. Max damage will also fall, so we're going to be down to just 12 players here shortly.
We got to see. We kind of saw how Unibeam puts you in a locked animation, and that's where I've seen as the beams coming in through right then and there as El Bandito gets confirmed and his duo mate gets confirmed right then and there. But the point I want to make is, why not send a sniper shot right back at someone who's locked in a Unibeam? And we've already been seeing our competitors, Sundown, use this Unibeam in an open state where they're just sending Unibeams through an edit. But a sniper blast, to see a Unibeam going through right here and there, ends Ender's run from Calavera coming in hot with the Unibeam. And that return right there from Wixie as Panic gets that elim. But why not? One sniper shot ends that Unibeam. Also, She-Hulk's fist gets a stun. So that is the options to counter Unibeam. And so far, no one's recognizing that they could snipe someone in that state.
And that's what it's all about, being able to capitalize on the mistakes. But Ender going down now, so we'll see again whether Panic can rise up and continue the streak of trying to get those 1v2 clutches right at the end, getting a far side rotation on the zone right now. And you can see there's a little bit of an ambush going on. Resub would be proud. There's a bush right on the other side, but will he see? Will he check? Will it be too late? Oh no, Panic, don't panic. Please? Oh.
Why would you wait until he boxed up? Panic now, trying to panic, get everything he can, create some form of distance. He doesn't have the Silver Surfer off cooldown yet, but Samurai and CTX Pass waiting a little bit too long there, letting Panic get his hard builds up and in between him before opting to start the rifle. And what looked like it was about to be just a horrible situation, all of a sudden, Panic has a little bit of room to make the play, and everyone is being forced into him, as you can see the zone pulling right now.
And you're seeing the lobby, there's 5 duos there, a couple of solo players running around, 5 duo placements doled out, a couple of full teams, and Panic is one of being the solos. For some reason here on the broadcast, we've been seeing solo clutches and victory royales. Is that going to be in the cards for Panic? Is that Panic's destiny? That could have easily be ended by that bush ambush right there. As you see in zone now, it's going to be pulling across Stark Pond, going all the way a little bit west here, Sundown.
Yeah, so there's 2 full duos and then 3 solo riders left in the match. You can tell 5 duos, multiply it by 2, so you should have 10 people in there. There's only 7 left, so 3 players trying to hit that clutch market right now. Unibeam opens up, but we talked about it. You can't then close the edit, and Zax gets blasted right there. So good aggression from Panic, but does he opt to go? Storm is on the backside, so he's not forced. Instead, he's going to be able to just wait for a second here. He's going to open up an edit, and then he's going to hit the Silver Surfer board and go to the front of the zone. There it is once the combination goes out, and you can see him going to opt to Hawk. Cancels the board animation, but doesn't connect on the pump shot. Now building out, but only 9 builds left. That matches his number of elims as he's on 9. Can he make it a 10th here, hitting double digits, as Zeke would like to say? Already 15 elims, 75 points from elims coming out so far from Panic and Ender, but can he close it up as there's only 1 duo left in the match, and Panic into the box will convert there onto Paro. He goes down. We have our top 4 duos, 5 players remaining, and Grams is on the front side of the zone.
Here we go. Grams, a solo player in his own right, gets an elim right in front of us. It is a strong possibility that we're going to, I think, hey, against a duo competition, and here's that possibility, a 1v1v1. This is all coming down to a solo performance here, as Grams is on the back foot, and now he has 2 people putting him in that sandwich, and you do not want to be the meat of the sandwich, especially with the Marvel powers here. But Grams going to use that ability to get right back into front and height priority, and closes that out. Now it's a 1v1. I believe the other one is of height already, and it's going to be, is that Grams versus the person that we've been watching this entire time, Sundown?
You can see, yeah, because Samurai was trying to get the ambush going on there. 11 builds left from Grams, but now he's going to opt to swap over to the Epic AR. Silver Surfer cooldown should be back up here. He's going to be forced to eat a flopper there, and Panic's a little too much out of builds and out of time. While he had the number of eliminations, the victory royale in our 3rd broadcasted match will go over to Grams. And again, it's about getting to the front side of the zone, having your cooldowns up when it matters, and executing in the final fight. Well done from Grams there. 9 eliminations plus the
players. They're all across several different matches, and we're just keying into a few as we are following the competition. But who currently holds down that number 1 spot? For the moment, we've got Jamside, we've got Toos. They're only 1 point ahead of very familiar faces, Hen and Chappix.
Wow, the who's who in the zoo making an appearance here, and it's all pros here sitting on top, and not a lot of victory royales going around, so that lets me know that they're being uber aggressive with elims and trying to maximize their output there, Sundown.
And that's what it's really about, trying to get as many points available to you. We're now just 2/3 of the way through the possible queuing time, and currently, no surprise to see a bunch of our top EU players really pushing into the top 5. Now we're going to switch on over there. We can see some more familiar faces: Flois, Indoretta, Nade Guy Chris, Mick DeBeast, Summon, Illusion, Monster Muncher, and Pinkay, all players who we've seen before. But the one thing I will note is Summon and Illusion El Nino, the first team we've seen with 2 victory royales in that top 10. So being a little more reliant on those placement points and being able to do that just because of the availability there. So good job on them. But if you want the number 1 spot, it's going to appear to need a combination of both placement and eliminations.
And it is kind of like playing out of your norm a little bit, recognizing that there are going to be opportunities to get that mid-game elims right then and there, as we see some more familiar names of Refsguard and Scram sitting in 12th place with 34 elims, 268 points. Link and Seventor with 262, and the Victory Royale. I'd be interested to say, you know, it's going to definitely come down to tiebreakers, I feel like, because everyone's really popping off, racking up elims, but those Victory Royales are going to be very valuable for teams like Kripa and that duo mate.
I mean, the tiebreakers are always beneficial to end up coming out, but the one thing I will note with just the high volume of points, I'd expect whoever ends up taking the number 1 spot to be able to clear at least a little bit of distance. We've generally seen that. We draw a lot of parallels to kind of the DreamHack duos, which has a very similar format, and typically you will see towards the end 1 or 2 players opt to pull away or being able to pull away. However, currently sitting at 21st, you have duo World Cup reigning champion Cooler Aqua, Helix 257 with him, currently sitting on 33 eliminations there. And then Fnayan, as well as his dual partner Matt.
Game. Sancho, Sundown. Let's get ready to get into the tail end of the action here in EU.
Thank you so much, Zeke. Our batteries are recharged. Our suits are fully locked and ready to rock. Let's go. We're getting into the tail end here of our open queues here for the Marvel Super Cup, and we're get to see who's going to walk away with that big prize pool at the end of this ride here. Sundown, so far, all the action has been popping.
It's been popping, but you can expect in the last hour the contention towards that top side of the leaderboards, where we can see players trying to push towards the very top, is going to get that much more intense. As right now you can see Stark Industries, one of the more popular landing spots across all of the competitive modes, whether it is for the mythic loot or the availability of that vault. Right now you can see Toos Jamside, one of our players who are towards the top, trying to get as much space as possible.
And it looks like, you know, Toos and Jamside are electing to land here in Stark Industry, trying to maximize their outputs and the elims as well, as we now see Cooler Aqua, no stranger to Doom's Domain here, having a little bit of scuffle now, looking to her ability to survive. As looks like Kylie here is just barely able to survive Aqua's reign just for a brief moment. Oh, actually, that is his partner Kylix there, looking really strong of their brief moments. We did see them on a couple of pages here in the leaderboard, so they're within striking distance to get to, you know, at least in a top 10 conversation. Oh, never mind. That conversation.
And Toos were also towards that, but that conversation might end real quick, as Aqua not being able to get down now, currently climbing behind a tree for a little bit of respite, which normally it doesn't offer a lot, but in this game mode, it's actually a little bit more efficient trying to save your partner builds, as Kylix, though, going to fall on the opposite side of that. The pinch goes through, and the duo World Cup champion and his partner will be taken out, but the fighting doesn't stop, as Navi Seventor going to close the gap right away. Naze and Chris trying to do their best, and a huge shot comes through, and Chris going to be able to convert on the other side of that, as Naze does end up going down. So some very, very, very quick fights.
And some very, very big names going down. Jamside did go down in the feed. We haven't seen in the duos competition, no matter if it's a Marvel Super Cup or DreamHack, whatever it is, that a lot of trades happen. So even though you see one duo member go down, that does not necessarily mean the end of that ride. A trade could quickly happen, as we're seeing the Groot's Bramble Shield being a great use of being able to collectively get back that HP, and Victor Von Doom on the receiving end of a snipe and getting knocked himself. But, you know, he kind of mentioned that the competitive scene has had a taste of the Silver Surfboard, has a taste of Groot's Bramble Shield. But early on as well, Doom's gauntlets and as well as his mystical bomb was a factor early on, and that led to a lot of teams like Cooler Aqua, like the Benjis of the world, to kind of make a stamp and make a push for Doom's Domain early on in the season.
Yeah, and being able to control that and just rain down fire from above it showed off to be one of the more kind of impressive weapons, but right now currently sitting all the way at the tippy top of the leaderboard, and everyone else playing catch up. They're no stranger to being up there. It's Waves, Janice, and then Reason, two of the best players who have come out recently in Europe in terms of their tournament performances, and right now saying everyone else has to play catch up as they're currently trying to close the gap over here in the Coral Castles and take a little bit of a quick engagement.
It looks like they're averaging around 10 elims, an average placement of 21, so it just shows you what kind of approach they're taking. They have one Victory Royale so far in their back pockets and going in hot. And you know what? This is my guess what they're doing here, Sundown. They are being super aggressive on these outskirts POIs. Anyone taking a scavenger route. They have the mobility in the Silver Surfboard. They have a lot of mobility in shot grenades, whatever they want to use to get inside people's faces. But knowing that these players that are out here in the outskirts may be of a lower caliber has been very successful so far for Yanis and Reason. So that is my guess. That's my educated guess to see why they're so successful. And the reason why we see them rotating outside to Coral Castle.
And part of the reason, if you're not familiar with these players, these are two of the best overall just fighters in Europe. When we were talking about, okay, like, hey, who are some of the best players in the world, or who are some of the best players in the region? Well, regardless of if it is solos, duos, add in Marvel powers, it could be pubs, heck. Honestly, you could probably put these guys in a Team Rumble match and they'd still find a way to take it over. That's how good they are when being able to close the gap and adapt to the different circumstance, and the results speak for themselves.
And the results, yes, they are currently sitting on top. Let's see if they're going to be able to get another Victory Royale here, as we're seeing some big names in this match. 100 Thieves, Mr. Savage. Let's see, Mr. Savage and Frey going together here. Usually, of course, Mr. Savage is rocking with Benji, but it looks like Savage has decided to go along with Frey here, and Savage getting himself 3 elims to Frey's 1. And there's no stranger. Why would Mr. Savage be here? I mean, this is going to be a place that he understands a lot of the power POIs. And yes, him and Lechi and Benji go into Doom's domain, but sometimes in their heats and opens, they tend to kind of sniff around Stark Industries a lot.
Yeah, and particularly when you're not in a set lobby format, when it's not the same 100 players every time, you have a little bit more leeway in terms of where you're dropping and what kind of pressure or results you can end up expecting. And Savage and Frey, no, they're really not necessarily known for taking early fights, but at the same time, they're more than capable of cleaning up and winning those engagements if they're able to get a little bit of an advantage. They're not bad at it under any sense of the word, so not surprised to see them in contention right now. 245 points. Definitely going to need a strong game or two if they want to rocket themselves up kind of towards that first place potential. Again, we've talked about it. The queues, it's 3 hours or 10 matches, and we have just over 35 minutes left in terms of the queue time. So we're watching one of the higher point games and the players who are in contention towards the top right now.
And at the same time, if really out there wondering where's Benji, he did tweet it out, unable to make it into the round 2. And that just shows you that this is a new style of play. And sometimes to be adaptive on the fly, it could, if you're not ready for it, if you didn't exactly get any of that Marvel Knockout LTM experience, even though Benji did get some of that experience at GlitchCon. So it's interesting to see not Benji here. A lot of people were wondering about that.
I was just about to say, but wait, where is he here, man? But
yeah,
I think that's a testament to the strength of Europe. Again, when there's so many competitors who are going through, there's going to be the ones who are just a little bit better at this format and are going to be able to go through. And if you spend so much time dedicated to just the strict arena and all the tournaments, it's a little bit more difficult. You might not necessarily be as well-rounded or used to adapting to these type of situations, and it gives other players the opportunity to really shine and take advantage of that stage. And right now you can see Frey taking advantage of that Unibeam, a great conversion there to get the knock, and now using the faster rate of fire from that Stark Industries hip rifle spray to just burn through the maps of the opponent. Again, we've talked about it, 60 available builds rather than the 150 means there's not a whole lot of defensive engagement you can really do if you're relying on builds.
And essentially 35 seconds will pass until another unit beam's available for Frey. So very shortly here we could expect another to go through these builds, and that is what's so dangerous about it. You box up and you're like, oh, okay, I got a moment to breathe, I'm in metal, bang, and just like that the unit beam goes right on through, the mega beam causing big time destruction, and now it's a mad scramble, and Savage and Frey are the ones that's gonna gobble up that egg scramble easily and convert that into an elim point. So that's what I'm saying, the pacing of it, you know, oh, I get tagged, I can box up, I can pop my big pot, I'm fine, 50 HP will come back. No, my friend, not so fast. Unibeam going right through you.
Yeah, one thing to note there, Savage almost went down. You talked about cleanly, but I think they got a little over-aggressive after that Unibeam hit. It was clear the player was very low on builds. Something that's very common you'll see in competitive Fortnite, it was when they have somebody down, they'll actually back up a little bit and make sure they aren't fighting wall-to-wall and box-to-box. That's because the most common weapon you'll see in these players' loadout is that epic and legendary pump shotgun. And it's because it has that huge one-shot potential if you hit a headshot to be able to do the entire 200 health pool, and Savage got very lucky there. He ate a 190, but it wasn't enough to push him over the top. So now having plenty of utility in what's back online, that Unibeam cooldown, Sancho.
Yeah, you hear the sound cue right then and there, and that's the thing, like these unibeams will create a 50-50 engagement all of a sudden as you're seeing the beams for the Stark Energy Rifle go true, and that is going to be assigned a couple of tags. It doesn't need much for a Fortnite Pro caliber of Savage and Frey to know that, hey, they have someone a little bit weak. I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like a lot of our pros are taking a very aggressive advantage, and Frey goes again, and that's why I like the stacking of the Unibeam. I know Savage just missed it, but that is going to be something going forward, going with the God tier edit, the peanut butter edit, getting that big time shotgun blast and a knock. Now Savage just has his nice little build off here. It's going to be in very shortly. He's going to cut down this build here, looking for that big lethal. Oh my goodness, watch out, dodge of the Unibeam, and that's another duo up there, Sundown, being up there and looking for that third party opportunity.
And they wanted to make sure that they were the ones who got that elimination. 8 now on the board for them. That's 40 points so far in this game, trying to claw their way up the leaderboard. But good job just hopping right over that laser beam of Iron Man's Unibeam, coming through the little red laser, kind of giving a little bit of reaction timing there. And we know Savage, he doesn't need a little bit of reaction time. If you give him even a moment, this man is probably about as close to a Marvel superhero as we have when we drop onto the island. He's been able to make some of the most incredible and iconic adaptive play, whether it was the Shadow Bomb going through to the World Cup or his DreamHack Anaheim win. He is able to adapt to just the craziest of moments, and right now him and Frey trying to make a case for the top of the leaderboard.
And is that adaptation that could get you into the Marvel Super Cup conversation for being first place. And as we mentioned as well, the prize pool is going to look nice, but at the end of the day, it's always nice to put a positive social media post that you're able to overcome the odds, overcome the chaos, overcome the noise of the Marvel powers, overcome the crazy unit beams. And I like this nice stagger of the unit beams. It's not all about sending it all at once. You can stagger it, and now you have a stagger of those cooldowns. One is going to be a little bit available, then thereafter 35 seconds cooldown. So it's the one Marvel power, Sundown, that has the most cooldown because it's one of the most dangerous ones on the board.
I mean, and we've just seen time and time again, it's so difficult, particularly when you're able to get those tags through. But you can see there a little bit more damage coming through, so you need to be able to clean it out. But we're going to hop on board with our current first place duo, Rezon and Wave Janice, trying to close the gap. You can see him launching from the high ground with the Silver Surfer board, opting to cancel it early because he eats a couple of those AR bullets, but he's going to opt to trade them back out. 229 tags and another one. It's going to even that trade out a little bit more. He's going to pop the minis as well as the big shield on the backside. Make sure he also gets some of that medium ammo as he was down to only 52. You can see it in the bar there, but trying to hit the shots there onto Groot's Bramble Shield. Good disengage coming out because you can tell, man, these guys smell blood in the water. They are not afraid to fight at any point in time.
Not at all. And the cooldown for the Silver Surfer's 25 seconds. So now you're kind of getting into like some of the deep metas of cooldown management. 25 seconds to make a push, 35 seconds to come back with a unit beam. But they're going to go ahead and turn their attention on more opportunities as some people are just not doing the fundamentals and covering their backside. And that's all it takes is now you're seeing, hey, now I'm going to go in and no doubt, oh, but my goodness, some fall damage happens. And now this is dangerous. A one box res. This is bad here, Sundown. It could easily be disintegrated by a Iron Man unit beam, but so far, no one's paying attention. And they're, oh, okay, here we go. Now, here's the attention. It is Lincoln's, I believe that was 7 Tor here coming in. And last time we saw Sync was 14 elims. That is not a person you want knocking on your door, but hey, they're able to get the revive here and there, and who knows, maybe survive for a brief moment.
Yeah, they noticed right as they went to Silver Surfer off that Lincoln 7 Tour, we're up still on ultimate high ground, and Janus just got beamed out of the sky. No, I don't mean unibeam. That's the Fortnite term for when the ARs do incredible damage, but right now, point blank, Reason says that's the real beam, and then give me them toes, 7 Tour. Close your box up, son, as the Navi player goes down. Link now in a 1v2, but the unibeam cooldown going to be back off. Reason doesn't need it at all. Instead, forces his way into the box with a quick Silver Surfer cancel. Well done, utilizing all of the cooldowns there to make a bad situation a positive one. You take down a direct competitor to you, you get 10 points, you're into the placement threshold as we have 24 duos remaining, and he's also going to top off his HP there, utilizing the HP regen from the Groot Bramble Shield. So really good job from Reason and Janus. This is part of the reason they're in first place right now.
Yeah, just to put it into like a little bit of focus, Mr. Savage and Frey, they're sitting around the 200 points, close to 300 now. But that is just showing you how dominant Reason and Giannis has been throughout this entire day. And they're just doing it in a free flow fashion. Now they're in danger here, but they've already survived once. And look at that, extending out. Looking at that blowfish type of defense, just looking a lot bigger. And now if you have Unibeam Sundown, you're going to have to do this guessing game and figuring out where they're hiding and not sticking together. So they're figuring out a little bit of the details, and it's the details that gets you that first place standing.
It's all in the fine print, and you got to make sure you're reading it. But now we're starting to get those stackers of an endgame. 23 duos remaining, 40 players still on their feet. Mr. Savage will not be one of them as he finally gets confirmed over there. Nice little Silver Surfer cancel coming out from Sicko Vibes, trying to get in the box. Spectrum Ping gonna go down there. It's not often used to doing that. Generally, we see it go the other way. But right now, Timo and Vibes doing a good job closing the gap, getting the resources they need, maxing out on mats. But now the question is, what do they carry with them? As we have our 4th zone revealed, they're going to want to get position on the outside because that 5th zone is that half in, half out. Oh, and we see that symbiote claw go out. Venom smash and grab, trying to catch somebody a little bit unaware, but not necessarily finding the bait that he wanted.
I am desperately wanting a Venom smash and grab on broadcast. Venom making an appearance here recently. One of the awesome outfits, but there it is. Liquid Kurwa and Desiro with a decent start in this match. It looked like they've been kind of walking around, going for placement here, but now they're in the in-game situation here, getting closer and closer to that point. And traditionally, when FNCS competitive scene, this is where a lot of the Elans come through. And you mentioned already, Sundown, it is a stack, but we got to mention at the same time, the lack of materials here is going to make this in-game so interesting because there's going to be a lot of oceanfront at play. And you know, aquatic endings eat up a lot of builds because you have to account for the floor as well.
Gotta account for the floor. It's water, not lava, and you want to be able to cover yourself, as we saw with 7 Toy there. Even just your toes peeking out or causing you to dive a little bit can mess you up, but it also makes these impact eliminations that much bigger because you're able to build out with the excess materials that the person you eliminated might have because you're not able to carry all of those with you. And right now you can see they're trying to just have a little bit of extra basing, and it's something we talked about early on in the broadcast. Because they got an elimination in here, they're able to chain together different marble powers, and we got it!
Yes!
The Venom smash and grab!
Yes! Yank him all the way, and Flopper Frey gets fished. What more of a fitting player? The player who is known for going out and hunting fish in the entirety of Europe. The Flopper player himself is on the other end of it. Frey, I want to know right now, how does it feel to be a fish and get gobbled up in the heat of competition? Because you are the first and you're the example of the smash and grab. Put him on the poster.
Oh my goodness, put him in the highlight, put him in the social media frame. My man trying to survive because Savage went down earlier, so a solo clutch opportunity, literally smashed and grabbed and thrown out of the lobby by Venom smash and grab. But that's what you like to see. I was wondering why this duo that was holding on to for so long, but now we got a big time smash and grab opportunity for Janice and Reason. They have the opportunity to smash and grab and take the whole bag, considering they're on top of the board and they're not slowing down at all. Sundown.
Yeah, they could open up their lead there and effectively maybe make it a competition for what second place is. Again, we talked about it. They had the lead coming in, but you drop in. One Unibeam comes through. Where's the second as Rezon is now within that threshold to be eliminated? They need to pop minis and get some white HP on him. If you're below 90 effective HP, you're in one-shot territory, not only from the Unibeam, but also anybody who can close the gap. And we've talked about it. Builds aren't safe, whether it's the Bramble Shield, whether it's the Unibeam, whether it's the Mjolnir Strike. Anybody can find a way in and make you pay, and right now they're trying to set up for a Silver Surfer take on the high ground. Here it goes. Instead, going to opt for a cancel on the low ground. Janice eats a whole bunch of damage there, down to 60 effective HP. Going to need to pop the minis. The Unibeam comes through, but he hops just to the left of it. That could have spelled his match, but instead able to dodge just to the side, and they'll stay on their feet with 5 eliminations and 18 duos remaining.
Man, they're holding on with a lot of experience as Twitch Michael F and R is in this match as well, competitor in the FNCS trio. So it's a lot of big names competing, a lot of big names colliding. But Reason and Giannis right now are colliding against Groot's Bramble Shield, and they get a free Elim right there. The Siphon comes through. Hey, but the end of the ride, but still 6 Elims, and this type of lobby is looking solid. That kind of pushes their lead a little bit more, considering going into this match, they have around the low 400. So a strong match from then and there. The question is, like you mentioned, Sundown, who's going to catch up here? Now, who is going to walk away with the victory royale as this is going down the beach then, down south? So, it's going to look nice here. A little bit of ocean front, a lot of sand here, but at the same time, the chaos is happening up above. Themo and Vibes, they could definitely get a lot of elims on the low ground. We always talked about it's the low ground that wins tournaments because you have an opportunity to rack up those 5 points right then and there.
And Mick the Beast still in the lobby as well, a player we've seen going all the way back to some of the solo showdowns. But right as I call him out, Nye74 says, nice little caster curse. Sundown, I'll take the 5 points as well as the 1 additional placement point. That's the thing. Every duo dropping here is 1 more point, each elimination being 5. And you can see right now already a number of teams rotating into the safe zone, utilizing the regen from Bramble Shield to kind of stay there. And now a horizontal bouncer coming out from Timo and Vibes and making sure they're staying hip to hip to not overbuild. But the question is who's going to be able to find these Unibeams at the end as Naze ends up eating one. There's going to be force him back off. Mjolnir Strike right down through 3 people. Rifle on the other end of that, becoming a legend there. He's going to send all the way back to Valhalla and the end of the lobby right now. Timo, though, finding 1 knock on the edge of zone. Him and Vibes have plenty of control, and another Unibeam raining down shots as we close in. Top 10 players, top 7 duos left, and it looks like an exercise in high ground control here from the Sicko duo.
And they're, oh my goodness, they are using so well Silver Surfboard. The cooldown ability essentially gives you 1 use in every rotation in the flick of the wrist with the lethal pump shotgun blast. Themo is on fire. He's cooking, and he's about to close out this one in style. There it is. Unibeam, baby, and the victory royale, and they cross into 300 points. We had it all there, Sundown. We had the flick of the wrists going into the ultimate finish with the Unibeam.
Tell me that's just not so freaking satisfying. Shout out to the observers for getting that moment, but the pump shot into the AR shot, turning to the back of the zone, and the Sicko duo goes exactly that. Brilliantly done. 8 eliminations plus the victory royale. 95 points there, pushing them up.
So much, Zeke, and yes, the Fortnite fam is colliding with the Marvel Universe in a very firework fashion. And things are popping here on the Fortnite broadcast. Thank you all so much for having us here for the EU side of things. And as Zeke mentioned, NAE's coming up. And that's when I'm excited to see who's going to be able to rain terror on everybody, just like Janice and Reason have been raining terror all day. Hey, but hey, Sundown, there's a lot of people within striking distance, and one pop-off game, we're having that opportunity to get that lion's share of that prize pool money that everyone's competing with. And hey, I'm having a great time today, Sundown.
I'm having a blast being able to watch competitive Fortnite infused with these Marvel powers that really enable the players to have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of different gameplay, but also just some of the plays we've seen have been so sick. The Venom smash and grab was awesome to watch. It's just like one step over from the harpoon. All of the changes of angles we've been seeing, the unibeam combinations, as well as the counters. I think it just goes to show when we're not used to necessarily seeing all of these things in such big combination. When added to the Battle Royale aspect, there's definitely something entertaining going on here.
Well, I mean, we got a taste of it in the FNCS competitive scene in trios. I remember outside of Weeping Woods, Benji, Lecce, and Savage were dealing with Wolverine. And that big excitement for me to see Wolverine going head charge against some of the best players in the world. And Wolverine just got decimated. So hey, anyone in the villains of the Marvel universe needs some help to taking out Logan, aka Wolverine Weapon X, just go ahead and hit up Benji, Lecce, and Savage, because they took him out easy. But the question will be is, like, we saw Wolverine's claws, no one's utilizing them, no one's picking it up. And that Wolverine's claws, and what I was going to say during the break, Sundown, is I'm hoping that the NA East players out there, pros and whatnot, whoever you want, whatever you want to call yourself, identify yourself, casual, content creator, whatever. I hope you're taking notes on what is kind of developing here in the EU region. And at the same time, maybe at the same time, try to discover, is Wolverine's claws or She-Hulk's fist could be a factor going forward. I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think right now we're starting to see players leaning a lot more towards the combination of the Unibeam, the Silver Surfer, and the Gramble board. One, because of familiarity, and two, ease of execution, right? It's very difficult if you're not familiar kind of with those melee combos to chain them effectively together. The one thing I feel like is a little underappreciated is their damage potential in the close range and how hard it is to really react to those situations, particularly Wolverine's 3-hit combo with that air dash. In these box-to-box fights, it can be surprisingly effective as well, though, but we're seeing players opt generally to prefer more the weapons they're used to, that legendary pump being the first one there, and a great 1v2 coming out from Raze there, utilizing his legendary weaponry, the hip fire there from the Stark Industries rifle to close out the fight. Eccentric ADN is also going to catch Chapik, so another lobby where we have a bunch of the top EU players battling it out. We're going to hop on board here with Avise and Spectrum Kubexman.
And that is what is at stake here, the top of the lobby, going at it, fighting for that money prize pool. Every engagement here on, we're getting closer and closer to the close of queue times. We're going to have a little bit after the fact to go through here on the EU side of things before we're getting into the throes of NA East. But look at it in the inventory. Advise has that Venom smash and grab. We saw a taste of it at the in-game opportunity. Able to gets a solo player in Frey, who's unfortunately the irony of that play. Frey going down. That's what I want to see, is someone going down into the whites. But look at it. Vice can essentially throw this Venom smash and grab through the wall if you wanted to as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to set up these ambushes. And then maybe Kubix meant that I'm assuming that they know people have gone through here before. They know this rotation. Here it is. This is an opportunity. What kind of ambush are we going to get? Is it going to be amplify the Marvel superpowers? No. Goes right in here. Now Advise could go in. Yes, he goes for the grab, and he just misses. Ooh. The Silver Surfboard just went way too far, and that was almost a scary situation because Gravity, the ultimate villain, almost reared its ugly head there, Sundown.
Yeah, the ultimate villain, unless you have one of the pairs of the gauntlets to be able to catch yourself. And I mean, the number of times that Gorgeous Gorge has been my landing spot pretty much since the start of Chapter 2. So the number of times I have fallen off of the bridge and not landed just quite centrally in the river, that fall damage can be a little bit difficult. But what's not a little bit difficult is dropping that Mjolnir strike directly below. And we actually see a little bit of the Black Panther kinetic armor right there. First time we've seen that utilized, but good job from Cub there to actually separate the two and then create the gap. Now trying to push forward again, has the shortest cooldown, only a 20-second cooldown there, so able to kind of pop it and get a little bit of wherewithal. Now they're going to double check and see what other resources they have available. They are going to pick up the fist, going to get dropped down. Need to be wary there potentially of fall damage with being on the side of the mountain, but does have She-Hulk's fist, and we'll see if he opts to close the gap here and try to utilize the stun. We've talked about it before, kind of in these close range box-to-box fights. These combos are
that much more effective, especially when you only have the 100 HP, which you don't generally have in the Marvel modes, and Cub gonna come to the rescue there and finally clean that one up.
Yeah, Cub, great work right there. Does have the She-Hulk's fist. The She-Hulk's fist does have a double jump to essentially get a super jump. So that could have been something that could have been the play right then and there. But yes, Black Panther's kinetic armor is a great tool to have because it launches, essentially puts a brief absorption shield over you and it lowers the damage that you take. So Thor's hammer came on through, but it was briefly dampened by Black Panther's kinetic armor. But now we're going to have a fight going out right here near Caddy Corner. Slender goes down to Yova Pachinki and deal with Getlick. Doing really well today. You mentioned it. We're going to see a higher point threshold here. 312 points. Very close in the conversations and getting in, hundreds and hundreds of dollars here every time they kind of have a pop-off game, and that's what's at stake.
A really good falling away shot there to get the second confirmation on it by Pachinki. Just a good job making sure they were able to clean up that fight, but now we're going to swing on over here. You can see a little bit of room and plenty of mythics down. EP, I'm calling along with this partner, Shifter Valen, trying to find a little bit of space here. Currently sitting on 246 points. You can see triple mythic, triple Marvel powers currently sitting in his loadout right now. So almost completely defensive as well, minus the Mjolnir strike.
Yeah, maybe, Colin heard Zeke's cry to use more the Marvel powers in the inventory, having that triple one. Hey, that's just gonna make you like a little superhero running around there. And that's what's interesting to see, like who in the NA East and who closing out this EU region is gonna kind of maybe utilize a 4-stack inventory, or like Zeke kind of mentioned, I like that idea of theocrafting, like one player having all the powers, having all these cooldown management, while the other is having the traditional weapons. But like you mentioned, Sundown, once it gets into those box fighting things, there's not much you're going to be able to do with at least with Colin's loadout. If he had a melee, maybe he could kind of do something in that conversation. But now you're seeing Valen using that Thor hammer strike to kind of break the stronghold, and Colin coming in again, the staggering of the Marvel powers. That's going to create a lot of pressure on these BTS boys.
And I actually really like that. I apologize, I didn't realize he was carrying the Mystical Bomb there in his 4th slot, which is great over in this area because you can lead with the Mystical Bomb. It'll put the fire damage down onto those soft builds, forcing them to use the hard mats. And then you follow up with the Mjolnir strike, which goes straight through the hard mats. So it's like, no matter what, you're going to be eating pressure. And a good job now, Valen following up, and Colin showing our first really good use of pure aggression just from the Marvel powers, and doing a good job of executing it. And they're going to win that 2v2 cleanly.
And that is a very strong duo. Those BTS boys were, that's what I'm talking about. These Marvel powers could kind of shorten the gap between some of our stronger players, but these players are figuring out new ways, new wrinkles to engage another strong player, a strong duo-ship, and that's what I like to see. I like how you nailed that, Sundown. It is a first strong use of cooldown management. Now, Lucia here, another player with 3. Let's see if Lucia could kind of have the same thing, because right now, Lucia and Omega, this is an important game for them, considering that for 471 points, that's really up there. That's really close to the conversations of catching up with Janice and Reason.
They're in 2nd place right now coming into this, so Luscia had to win that. If they want to even be in contention with Janice and Reason, they're the only ones who could do it. And Luscia down to just 6 HP with the epic pump and the Bramble Shield in a Dream, was able to clean up that fight, immediately disengages over, hops on top of the reboot van, and is going to do everything he can to get Omega back on his feet, knowing he needs his duo partner. So, what you talked about, Sancho, this is the dinner bell. Keep an eye on the bottom right-hand corner because those triangles are closing the gap.
And that was a great use of Wolverine's Claws, the air dash. Just a little bit of mobility, get him faster to the reboot van, and those matter of seconds could be the thing that survives here. But yes, Lucia and Omega are working together. There goes a bit of smash and grab, but that is the danger. The counter to it is sometimes you're going to pull someone that has that firepower, and that put Lucia in a locked animation and unable to kind of come back into that fight, and down goes Lucia. So now Omega is going to have to hold on as much as possible as Lucia's desperately crawling to this revive situation. But this may be bad news bears, because you crawl to your partner. That may be that other dinner barrel, but this could be that bait. Here we go. How was he able to get away, Sundown?
They're looking, I feel like they were looking over for a partner, but Omega is actually on fire from the mystical bomb that had gotten thrown down. So they're both going to tick down. They barely have 50 effective HP between them. This is our second place duo. They have to find the miracle shot. They have to find the combination because the other team has just so much. All the until the Unibeam comes through, not gonna find it. And again, the reason we're hyping this up so much, TS Omega and TS Lucia, our second place duo right now, the only ones who are realistically going to be able to catch Janice and Reason, or at least in the competition, as now we're going to hop on to somebody else. This is currently our fourth place duo, Chapix and Become Legends Hen. 417 points. They're relatively in the competition, but they need a big game right now.
And you know Hen could definitely do that. The Become Legend had so much pop-off games and clutch moments in the FNCS trios, but now those pop-off games, that bubble could get burst easily as he does eat a Unibeam. So hey, but at the same time, look how Hen is just confident, knowing that if he boxes up, that's going to be an opportunity to have a team have a free push. Instead, he's going to go ahead and fight back and let that team know, like, no, my friend, you're not going to have an easy push on me because I'm the one that's going to have to call an ambulance for you, my friend.
And you can see there the Unibeam fire going through, and that's actually another Become Legends duo over on the side there, trying to return a little bit of fire. It's Six and Rifle, the duo who has played together for such a long time. And right now, Hen just trying to punish. They did pull the third zone, which is going to give them a little bit of respite in terms of the rotation and allow them the time to go aggressive here if they want. He's going to be waiting for the Unibeam cooldown, trying to utilize the Stark Industries rifle and the fast first shot accuracy. There's the Silver Surfer board. There's the Unibeam as well, and he gets it. Slicks goes down, and Hen says, come to my roost. You are now my chick, and we're going to convert. Well done. He's the better legend, as Hen will get the shakedown, get the information, and they're going to continue forward, trying to get in contention for that top spot.
And at the same time, in the feed, we saw Omega go down. So Lucia and Omega are down. That's going to give that opportunity, the door for Hen and Chapix here to move up the leaderboard. And what a great cooldown management that we're seeing. Chapix coming in with Unibeam. Hen then makes a slight movement forward. It's like we're watching chess here. Pieces are being moved. Hen is now coming in with the Unibeam, and he's going to catch himself maybe a two-piece hit. And now Chapix knows, like, hey, in a couple of 10, 15 seconds, my Unibeam will be online, and we could get this duo out immediately.
Yeah, and Iron Man's Unibeam just originating from the chest, putting that laser across. You see it flash just so often on the battlefield. These players really opting into that. Silver Surfers is kind of the 1-2 punch, seeing a lot of Bramble Shield as well, and then situational uses of the other one, depending on player preference. There's the Mjolnir strike from above. It's Colin and Valen again, who we've seen opt into kind of a more power-based loadout right now. Valen doing a good job of applying pressure onto the hard builds whenever he sees it with the Mjolnir strike. And you can see right now Colin just trying to maintain the high ground advantage. There is a number of teams who are already in the zone. You can see the bottom right-hand corner. Going to focus on the Bramble Shield. 333 tags, but not quite enough to break it. However, Silver Surfer Shield comes out, Mjolnir Strike comes out, and honestly, this duo has been using powers pretty much better than anyone we've seen so far.
And that is why they're sitting really, really solid here. 274. I think they just gotta kind of put it all together, and I think they're surprising a lot of these upper duos right here with their use of these Marvel powers. And look at it, Thor's hammers going back and forth. A lot of worthy competitors kind of trading blows here as we're getting down to the ending moments here of the EU region. Queues are coming to a close very shortly, and we're gonna be able to see if we're gonna maybe squeeze in a game here. All of it's happening right here, right now, but let's see if Hen and Chapix could have that pop-off game potential to get them in the conversation to kind of compete against Janice and Reason, who are having a tremendous day here at the Marvel Super Cup.
And right now, 5 eliminations coming out from Hen and Chapix. The young Englishman Hen accounting for 4 of them, and we've talked about it. He's been one of the most dynamic players. The Cash Cup that he ended up winning on his birthday. Since then, if you look at his raw statistics and results, he's arguably one of the best players, not only in Europe, but in the world. And right now, the patience is a virtue, maybe not the best one, only finding the first 55 tag, but double Unibeam comes out. However, gas station there, so explosions all over the place. This Hen will eat a Unibeam in return, so down to just above the one-shot potential from that. Needs to be careful if he closes wall to wall, but he says, don't worry about it, Sundown. Peace Control is my middle name, and I got a shotgun as well. Vertex Harry going down there, going to opt to pop the minis, get the shakedown, and get the siphon. Nice little min-max from the Become Legends player.
And there it is. We're getting closer to the in-game. 17 duo placements up for grabs here. Of course, the Victory Royale up for grabs, and this in-game is going to be south of the Stark Island, and that is going to be something. Oh my goodness! A double Unibeam in the sky from Chapix and Hen. They are feeling it. They are in that free flow, and now we have other big names of Floki and Deceptos here. They could be the ones that slow down the run, but they're going to need that big-time pop-off game as they get Fugaeus right then and there.
A good job there. You can see Deceptos also backing up for a second, getting a little bit of room. You check that bottom right-hand corner, everybody packing into the outside of that 4th zone, hoping to pull the 50-50, but a good duo clean up there from Manuel and Deceptos. Going to push them up 294 points, as well as decent positioning with plenty of builds around them to kind of navigate and potentially dodge those Unibeams.
Yeah, that's not going to be a lot of opportunities left. Like I mentioned, things are getting tight here. We're seeing Dezu in, Larez here, Larez there, all here in this fight. All of them colliding here as the in-game situations. We're getting closer and closer to the top of the board here. Larez, 272 points, so they are going to need a pop-off game, and they're going to need another one on top of that to be able to end that top 10 conversation. But look at it, 14 placements up for grabs here. In-game, getting closer and closer to Stark Industry. But we already mentioned here with the Civil Surfboard Sundown that sometimes that could be the ultimate negation right there as Hen goes down and Chapix goes down. So that duo who had a hot run, the free flow is over. And sometimes you get a little bit overzealous, but most likely they got another game in their back pocket, and hopefully they could queue up for to kind of get closer and closer to Janice and Reason.
Yeah, there's only 2 minutes left in the queue. Don't forget, we are a little bit behind from the server replays and grabbing the game, so hopefully should be able to get one more match in there. After this, we'll take a look at our top 10, and then we'll go into one more match before we end up having our overall Marvel Super Cup winners out of EU. And then Sancho and Clay are going to be bringing you NA East along with the help of Zeke hosting it, and I'm super excited about that because I don't know how much you guys end up watching Clay and Sancho in your own time, but they put on an amazing performance over the course of the knockout series and did some really good job in terms of combining the powers. So excited to get to watch them break down the NA East action after this. But we're in our second to last match here in Europe. The queues with just a minute left. The players trying to get every single point left they can on the board to climb up and make themselves either the #1 spot or a little bit of a nicer payday.
Absolutely. I appreciate that premium gas, and no doubt I'm sure Clay does this well. Sundown, and who knows, maybe in a different time, maybe Clay and I would have been able to end this tournament, but I'm excited to be casting all the action and seeing all my favorite competitors here do really well. It's been an honor casting the EU side of things and seeing some familiar names from the FNCS trios do really well, like Dezu and Larez, who we had a very fun Twitter interactions recently. So that's what's up. And as we see Mappy and Fnayan in the fight as well. But I'm really excited to see new faces and new people like Colin and Fallon who are just using so much of these Marvel powers, I would say optimally. I haven't seen such great chaos and very controlled, use of everything so cleanly right here, Sundown.
I feel the key difference from these guys is they're opting to use the Thor's Mjolnir strike instead of the Unibeam because it's not as telegraphed. They've sidestepped pretty much every single Unibeam that has come their way, and as long as they're able to keep up with that level of execution, they close the gap with the Silver Surfer board, and then they double Thor's hammer to get as much damage and expose players as possible. So here it goes. Boom,
immediate Silver Surfer out to the far side. They're going to look to kind of close the gap and then try and double up together. There they are, buddy to buddy. The thing is, the second they end up eating a Unibeam, that strategy no longer is as effective. You have a very low margin of error when it comes to eating the other mythic powers. However, if they do it better, as they've seen, they're able to capitalize, and that's a huge combination there. The pump shot as Valen hits him up with the hip fire from the side. 9 eliminations, and right now, Sancho, we got 5 duos on their feet, 10 players remaining going into zone number 7.
Let's go. This is what we wanted to see in duos competition. And Colin is putting on a show. And Lariz goes down from that big pressure from Colin, using the Silver Surfboard to take height. And now it's a strong opportunity to get the victory royale. Let's see what's going on the front side of things. Actually, it's Valen with the split. Valen and Colin are split, and they're doing so much damage together. And they're getting all the angles. If Anayan goes down, this is going to be a great game. And now it is a top 2 situation. It's a 2v1. Only one solo out here, and I'm expecting some Thor's hammers to rain down from the sky and the victory royale. Let us go. Great use of Mjolnir's hammer strike to come on down, get that guy out of the box, and to close it out with the easy hits. Let's go, Sundown. We're getting closer and closer to the end. I cannot wait to take a look at the leaderboard to see like who has an opportunity to be the Marvel Super Cup champions.
And the queues have now closed. We're 2 minutes over the time, but boy, what a treat was it to watch Shakhtar Valen.
Much at your fingertips to become versatile. Let's take a look at our standings. Look at this ridiculous leaderboard. We're going to be looking at our top 10 teams right now. Janice, Reason, almost 90 points ahead of everyone else. Are you guys surprised by this?
I am not surprised by this. I would have to go into the VOD review, Zeke, to figure it out, but Janice and Reason, it seems as though they're kind of picking on the POIs on the outskirts and using their ultimate mobility, cleaning up a lot of elims very quickly. So that would explain that they have 77 elims, but we already talked about Hen and Chapik, 70 elims themselves, so it's about placement as well in the Victory Royale. That's kind of boosting Janice and Reason to the top, but we were so invested in Lucia and Omega. They had that run, and they're the only ones that's kind of in striking distance, but take a look at the second page here, Sundown. A lot of familiar names as well.
A lot of familiar names, and if they do go down early, Janice and Reason could be caught up. Don't forget 55 points available just from placement for the Victory Royale, as well as 5
Marvel superpower action to be had. But now we're heading into the final game here in EU. So, gentlemen, let's send it back over to you.
Let's go. We were all wondering when's Marvel, baby. It is Marvel time. It is going to be the last frame for the EU side of things. I am Sancho West alongside Sundown. Thank you all so much for joining us here today in this Marvel Super Cup Saturday, or it could be Sunday, wherever you are around the world. I don't know. I'm bad with time zones. You got to hit up some guy named Leo maybe to get some better time zones. But yes, Sundown, here we go. I love it. This has been awesome fun, and it's sad it's coming down to an end here.
Here we go, but as Dr. Strange has said, time's not real, and you can see right now Savage trying to put a pause on the time. Unfortunately, we saw Frey on the returning end of one of the better clips here, the best example of a Venom smash and grab, but the 100 Thieves member right now trying to do whatever he can to claw his way up the leaderboard and do his best to get in contention and get himself a little bit more notoriety going on there. You can see a number of other triangles hanging out in the bottom right-hand corner in Doom's domain, so you can expect some early engagements going on. You also see him currently opting to rock the She-Hulk's fist and being able to close the gap, so we'll see if that ends up coming into play. As over on the other side, you can see Frey just looting up, so a little bit of the split between these two, so they need to be careful.
Yeah, and Frey definitely needs to be careful. We already saw Frey. He was going into a solo run, thinking he was safe, chilling in his build, trying to get the placement points, and all of a sudden, Venom smash and grab, just yoinked him right out of his safe place, immediately gets converted into 5 points. But hey, Frey and Savage, they're still playing for a lot of opportunities to move that comma a little bit over, you know, move it a little bit more to the left, maybe add a little bit more, a couple of zeros. And this is going to be the last game that we're going to cover here in the EU side of broadcast. And as mentioned before, NAE is coming up very shortly. So still get your popcorn ready. There's still a lot of cinematic action here going down. And again, shout out to the ops, as you mentioned before. I'm just loving the action that we're catching, the angles that we're catching. And It's just really cool, man. I'm really vibing here today.
We're having fun with it. And I mean, when I was first told it was like, hey, we're going to do a Battle Royale tournament, but there's going to be Marvel powers all over the place, I was like, yes, sign me up. That sounds amazing. Just the playmaking potential that these guys have, and then putting the powers all over the place. In the traditional game mode, with them being mythic, there is only generally one or a couple. If you're talking about the Silver Sufu with the the Groot Bramble Shield, but right now you can see Frey getting a little bit aggressive. The Unibeam opting into one elimination, and then Savage closing the gap, but there's still another team nearby able to hit it. Nope, that's just a couple of bots. Ignore me there. They're going to be able to clean that one up. There is a team who is nearby, but they're not immediately under pressure.
I don't know what it is, but, you know, those bots can be dangerous. We've been seeing, you know, all the different types of, you know, villains or superheroes running around. They will take out top-tier competitors, so don't sleep on those things. You're right to call that out, because that could be a very dangerous situation, but this is going to be a very dangerous lobby. As you mentioned, Janice and Reason, all they have to do to hold on, but this is kind of different. Remember what we were doing the FNCS trios? You remember when, but I remember when we saw, like, Mongrel, Mewtwo, and Tayson, all they had to do was hold on. That was extremely difficult to do, but these Marvel powers kind of like allow you to overcome some of that, and you could definitely have a stronger hold onto your lead. The question is not falling too early without any kind of points out the door, because you mentioned that lead in itself, all it takes is a pop-up game, and before you know it, you could just overtake someone that's had a whole, like, big-time 100-point lead this entire time. But, hey, Han and Chapix getting 100 points in the Victory Royale, that's going to get you there, man.
I mean, we've seen before the ability to kind of execute on those, and with 5 points per each elimination, it can be huge, but we're already seeing maybe a slight change in terms of the game plan and the loadout we're going with. We haven't really been seeing players picking up snipers, instead opting for the Unibeam, because again, you can pressure through the builds, but it looked like they dropped the Unibeam in order to pick up a snipe, seemingly like they don't want to draw attention to themselves. We'll have to go back and double check that. So we're going to hop on board here with OT, Zax, and Ruben currently sitting on one elimination, trying to make it a pair here. So they're going to wrap up this Holly Hedges fight in a second. Box to box, nice little piece of control to make sure you get it in. Player looks to disengage, not quite going to find it, as actually it's a big return, but Ruben is going to be able to clean up Jaggy there, and they're finally going to be able to resolve that and now have Holly Hedges to just loot at.
And there it is. Zach's loadout has cabbages, of course. Cabbages for Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage is in this lobby. Janice is in this lobby. All the players, this is their last opportunity to maximize whatever they got left in the tank to make their prize pool earnings a little bit bigger, and who knows, maybe walk away with that #1 spot. I've always wanted to say, when I was competing in these Marvel Knockout LTMs, yes, that is a thing to say, is like, hey, I just want to be on the front page, that first page, that top 1 through 10, just to be able to be, you know, rubbing shoulders, rubbing elbows next to some of the who's who of the Fortnite competitive scene. It's always fun just to see yourself on the leaderboard. So shout out to you guys at Fortnite to be able to have this competition, to give people that experience that, you know, a lot of our players, hey, I don't have that mechanics to get there, but now Frey, on his knees, it's going to be dangerous to her, and Savage does have the mechanics to kind of turn this around and clutch. Let's see if he can do that against Aware.
And Aware right now trying to find a little bit of room, currently sitting on 408 points, so towards the top part of the leaderboard. However, Maestro, RR, the controller player for Wave, currently sitting down, but getting sat down himself with Savage and Frey. Well done there to be able to close that one up from Aware, getting box to box and then sticking with the AR. However, needs to be conscious of the fact that there are still other players nearby. You can see the Silver Surfer disengagement comes out from the side. He's going to opt to disengage himself as well, combining a Shockwave with that Silver Surfer to just get as far as he can. However, 1 tag, 2 tag, 3 tag, going to opt to then just cancel the Silver Surfer board, and now needs to be careful.
Absolutely, and we're taking a look. This is only the first safe zone that's been revealed. The second one looks like it's going to be around Stark Industries POI. It has made an appearance so far in the EU broadcast, but I haven't seen any kind of that hilarity when it comes to Polar Pink 2.0. We had a nice interview talking with other players in different tournaments, and they always said that they enjoy watching a Stark Industries ending, and where once no business of that pressure decides to go ahead and use the portal right then and there to get away from that, and that's going to give him another moment to breathe. But it looks like he's just going to actually sit in this and just do what a lot of people tend to do, just camp it out and wait for it to all wash out.
Just hang out, wait out, make sure that nobody can come in, but this is
Not necessarily the most fun position to be in. You can see flame traps going down either side. He does largely what he's probably waiting on. He's waiting for the Silver Surfer board. And he's going to try and stop hiding and then pop the Silver Surfer. But, yeah, it's not necessarily a winning adventure. It's more of a just hope you don't lose hard enough and that the other person doesn't have white heals. So we're going to rotate away from that as he does his business. You know, nobody wants to be bothered while they're in a porta potty. So we're going to hop on board here to our second place team, TS Omega and TS Lusha. And currently you can see Iron Man's Unibeam connecting there for 90 damage. Also has Silver Surfer's board to be able to close the gap, but I don't anticipate any overt aggression coming out of these guys, because while they need eliminations, if they themselves get eliminated, they're out of contention for first. And I anticipate they're trying to play for that #1 spot, knowing they're far enough up the leaderboard that they've gotten a decent payday anyway. It's all about the W.
And I was going to say as well is that it gives Unibeam to come back online, because what I've been seeing what's happening is they'll tag a player, right? That player instinctively boxes up around them for a split second. And once that happens, that gives the green light once again for the Unibeam to come through. And Omega and Lucia are just showing that what I was hoping that the players would figure out. It's not necessary to go box-to-box fight. Let the Unibeam come back online again and send another 90 tag through the builds. And that is what they did in that interaction. And it looks like they're figuring it out. And that could be the factor that could get them into that #1 spot. As Omega and Lucia going into this match in the second place. We saw previously in the match before in the broadcast, they went down in Weeping Woods. But if they could figure out the little nuances here, I'm not sure. It may be a little too late. But I believe I want to see something interesting. I want to see some drama go down here in these last frames in the EU region, Sundown.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jonesies, Bonesies, She-Hulks, Iron Man, Silver Surfers, however you identify, welcome. This is the final match we will be covering here in the Marvel Super Cup in the EU region. We'll have a little bit of a break after this before we get into the NAE side of the action. But right now we're hopping on board with our #1 team. It is an exercise of remaining in first and remaining in control, as Reason and Janice have been the wire-to-wire winners. No strangers of being at the top in a tournament, but what comes down to the clutch factor is whether or not you can close it out when you're back is against the wall. And right now, Janice being forced to burn pretty much every single material he has. Chug Splash is coming in, but when they needed the clutch the most, he was able to stick it. Gold drops in the box, but he's looking more like bronze there as he gets dropped immediately. The disengagement from the Groot's Bramble Shield comes out, but Janice straight on top of him with the dive from the sky. No problem there, gonna connect. Not necessarily the tag he was looking for, but it feels like it's just a matter of moments, and it is Pavlov and Gold going down at the hands of our current #1 seed. Janice and Rezon avoid disaster there and lengthen their lead.
I gotta say, a lot of people like to say this ain't your mama's or daddy's Fortnite, but hey, let's just be real. This ain't your son's or daughter's Fortnite. This ain't your nephew's or niece's Fortnite. This is a completely different Fortnite game that we're seeing right here. It is the Fortnite universe colliding with the Marvel powers in this marriage, this twining of the two powers coming here into fruition as it led to exciting gameplay and exciting action as well. And we're seeing some of the top Fortnite pros in the EU region still stand tall. But now we have 399 points of Frick and D-Vic here setting up a stair ambush play. You talked about it. The Battle Royale ambush is still holding on strong, and that is what I'm talking about. Fortnite elements coming into play with the Marvel power elements.
And the comms going through right there. Dervik and Freck were like, no, we hear them. The other team coming in. Crazy's like, no, get in the house, bro. It's clear. I swear. We're good. No, I swept the entire first floor. All right, it's totally clear. You're sure? Yeah, we're good in here. We'll just hang out. We pulled zone. We're fine. Boom, straight up the stairs. Dervik and Freck are sitting counting. 1, 2, 3. And then all of a sudden, you're taken down. Shakedown pushes them over the 400-point threshold. So good job there. And again, we talked about it. Utilizing the natural space and a little bit of the traditional BR elements. You have to be ready for that. You can't walk up a staircase and just assume nobody's going to be there, because everybody else has the same resources available to them.
That kind of reminds me of a throwback to Chapter 1 of Tilted Town. That one main staircase in the main saloon, if you sit up there perched on top of it, people just love to run upstairs willy-nilly, and they get bopped just right here, a back-to-back setup, and the bops are going back in front, and they're going to go ahead and take him and put him in a nice situation to capitalize on the loot. But that's what I was talking about, and it's been working out for them. Hey, and if things get dangerous, they could kind of disengage with the Silver Surfboard, or at the same time return favor with the Unibeam.
And they own the big thing about owning this on the side of the zone is as every other player ends up rotating in here, they're going to look to kind of get in this house. They think, oh, this area is safe. However, I will give the call out. It's really weird that he just walked through all those builds. He's like, nah, there's not going to be anybody here. Not checking it. Gets yoinked and tossed right back in. So we're going to hop back on over here. Current second place, TS Lusha, TS Omega, doing their best to try and remain in contention, continue pushing up towards the top of the leaderboard, and maybe be able to unseat Janice and Reason. But it's going to take a monstrous performance because, like we talked about, it was nearly a 100-point lead coming into the final game. Now, you're thinking, Sundown, 100 points, there's no way you can catch it. A Victory Royale is 55 because you start getting individual placement points for each one of the top 25. And then additionally to that, each elimination is 5. And with a duos competition, it's not unheard of to see kind of a 10 or a 12 elimination duo win, which would be enough for them to overtake. But again, when we talk about having to do everything right, their back is against the wall in relation to the #1 spot, and right now setting up one of those traditional ambushes.
And at the same time, all those elims could be easily racked up with Marvel superpowers. We've been seeing those Marvel powers come into play where a team could get a double pump, bang, flick around, get the Unibeam going. That's another elim. Throw down Thor's hammer. That's another elim. Right back to back to back, where traditionally it may take a while to get the beams or the pump shotguns. So it is a question. Lucia, Omega, your time is right now to overtake Janice Reason, but you mentioned before it's going to take a Hulk-like performance to overcome it, or shall I say a She-Hulk type performance to overcome the odds as time is coming down to it, as this match is going to the closer and closer to that 4th zone. This is it here. Can they go ahead and utilize? But you're just seeing how valuable they want placements. It is a question, should we or should we not push this duo and hurt our chances? And that is another strong duo, and Lincoln 7-Tor, and they push at the right time. Their timing impeccable.
But Omega needs to be careful. Again, we've talked about it, making sure you're doing everything right. The shots are coming in right now. Lusha into the box. Omega goes down, and it's all going to be on Lusha. 7-Tor on the other side of this says, hey, you're going to take down Link. I'm going to take down your chances at remaining in this tournament. Omega gets turned over. Lusha utilizes a shockwave to disengage, but no reboot card in play. He has plenty of excess shields to get himself back up to that 100 threshold. But now, all of a sudden, Janice and Reason spot atop of the throne looks that much more secure as our #2 duo loses a member. Omega falling when he could not afford to. 7-Tor wreaking his revenge and all but guaranteeing a Janice and Reason victory, minus some heroics from Lusha.
And that was that should we or should we not situation. That is consequence of what happened right there. And just like the Marvel powers, you're going to have the pros, but the consequence is what makes you be that hero that you are. And Lucia Omega pay the price right there. But we're all bored here with the solo clutch that could happen right here from Black. So even though they're not going to be able to compete for the big time money, they're still, again, moving that comma to the left a little bit more, where you get in a couple hundreds there every time you keep moving up the board as much as possible. So that is what's at stake for Blackso and his teammate. And Yaz is right now cheering him on, because now we're going to see another solo Lone Ranger performance. And this is it. 28 placements out for grabs, 48 players alive, so you know there's a couple of solos out and about, and there is a couple of mountains out and about who could claim a lot of the toll here of the lobby, as we're going to take a nice panoramic view and seeing that who's going to have that strong opportunity to do so. You see Spectrum's Hulk alongside with Become Legends Yoda sitting up top with a strong opportunity to lay down a lot of beams, but Blackso is going to try his best to survive and use a lot, as you see here, defensive Marvel powers, but oh no, Sundown, things are not looking good. Double unit people, what a great block with Group's Bramble Shield.
disengage right away, using every portion of that, the mobility, the nice little damage absorption, and getting over to the side. Couldn't have done better for the French veteran Gamers Origin Black. So well done there. But what we're keeping an eye on is that elimination feed in the top left-hand corner. We're going to check now and get a wide of everyone else who's left in the lobby. We can see towards the side, but we're keeping an eye to see if Janice and Reason go down. Until we see their names up there, there is not a hope for anybody else to be able to catch them. And as soon as I say it, you see Reason gets knocked. That's Lazarov potentially opening the door for a comeback. Double unibeams now coming out from Shinken and Stompy, the longtime World Cup duo. And Janice and Reason are down in 28th. Gamma Shinken will get the conversion onto Nefrizi, but all of a sudden, in the final game here, Lusha could potentially look to clutch up in the moments, but it's going to take a whole bunch of elims. I believe Hen and Chapix are still on their feet as well. Those are the two duos who now all of a sudden have potential to maybe sniff that #1 spot, to see, hey, we could be the Marvel heroes of the day. We could be the ones to walk away with that $2,000 a piece and be crowned the winners of the Super Cup. And Shinken and Stompy right now trying to get a little bit of room for themselves as well.
And this duo is in 3rd place at the moment going into this match. So there's another one that could have an opportunity. Yes, Lucia is right there that just has to hold on. But yeah, I like that. Who can be heroes for just one day? And that is an opportunity for Stompy and Chicken to possibly be the heroes. And I like what they're doing here. Making Unibeam doing the brunt of her work. Not having to go right in and then following up with the Mjolnir strike from the Bifrost. That is going to be big, and that picked up a nice elim right then and there. And hey, they have a strong position on top of the side of this mountain here, Sundown, as you're seeing a lot of duos now making the rotation into the safe zone. And I'm thinking Stompy and his duo mate are going to make this rotation late and just go ahead and sit on height with Chinkin.
Yeah, they're going to look to rotate late, utilizing their mobility in the Silver Surfer form there. You can see checking on the wide there. Did still see Hen and Chapix on their feet, so they are still in the match there. Currently on board here with Onyx Wing and Schnog Kelfe, trying to get a little bit of room here. Currently sitting on 2 eliminations. We're into our top 25 duos. That means every duo that drops at this point will be 1 additional placement point, 1 point closer to the top of the leaderboard, because again, our #1 team, Wave Janice and Rezon, have gone down in 28th, only 10 points from this game. But the question is, can they capitalize? Can somebody rise up at the end and steal their glory? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you lead wire to wire. If somebody else gets that final blow, all the loot and the spoils will go to them. And we see Lusha still on his feet right now, hanging out in the mid-ground.
Keep an eye on Lucia. Keep an eye on Chinkin and Stompy. They're the ones that are in striking distance. Keep an eye on Hen and Chapix, because they're the ones who could have that huge pop-off. Now, also, you got to keep an eye on the Storm. You can't forget this. This is still a Fortnite Battle Royale. You still have to deal with these moving circles, and now you see as well, yes, Storm Surge is active, but 6 players have to go on. We have to keep an eye on that. So many factors are going into this rotation, and right now, Wings and Kelpie going to use a Mega Shockwave bounce and attach to the nice use of the antenna. So that's going to be a nice natural terrain. That's going to be a nice stronghold and a great opportunity to send down Unibeams on the lobby.
And there's so much priority positioning. It's going to be able to save them having to utilize their cooldowns, and now they're just looking to rack up as many points as so many players are dropping. You can see the bouncer over on the side to connect towards the hill. A really good job there. Now he's going to catch up to his partner on board here. Kelpie and Wings doing their best to just ride out the rest of the lobby. The Iron Man Unibeam towards the backside of the zone. Not going to find it, and Shinken goes down, which means it's all on Stompy and Lusha here to try and do their best to try and close the gap. But it's looking more and more like Janice and Reason did enough to just hold on. You see Lusha pick up an elimination there onto Kiriachi, but not seeing the number of eliminations that they would need to press towards the top. And with Wings and Kelpie up on the high ground, uncontested, raining down shots, Stompy falling, they're going to be the Dream Enders and just try and get as much as they can. Lusha still on his feet, able to pick up Black, so as Valen will finally go down. Lusha doing everything he can to just try and remain in the conversation, but it's not going to be enough as Wings and Kelpie just continue to rain fire down on the lobby.
that premium positioning. They are taking advantage, and they're walking with a lot of elims in just that rotation. Being able to get to the antenna, to get to the mountain, has racked them up so many elims. 7 elims, and they're not done yet, but also they're going to have the ability to close out the door with Unibeam. 3 placements left. 4 players left in this lobby, including this duo. So it's now a 2v1v1. So that's going to be an opportunity for Wings at least to walk away with the victory royale. Now it's a 2v1 situation. Wings, healthy, and there it is. The zone is moving back up it's going actually across. So Trilix is going to have an opportunity to breathe, but not so fast. The Unibeam is coming in hot, and that Unibeam could create the big time fire. The scissor ramp is going up for the opponent here. Kelpie and Wings can close out with the EU victory royale, and they do. But you mentioned Sundown. There was so much chaos that happened, but it is Janice and Reason who,
with almost a 90-point lead, and they managed to close out the day 578 points, a victory royale, 79 total eliminations with an average placement of 19th. I mean, Sancho, they put on a show for us here in EU.
and oh my goodness, that winner's graphic looking really cool to see Iron Man there. But hey, look at how close it was for Hen and Chapix that we were talking about, man. Lucian Omega taking that engagement in retail row costs them their $500, but that's what I'm talking about. It's all about moving that comma a little bit to the left. But I just like seeing all the action unfold, and to see these names on the leaderboard. Congratulations to all our competitors here today. Sundown, I like it, man. Really cool.
Yeah, and right at the end there, we saw too that Shinken and Stompy were able to rocket themselves up the board. But there, as we get on to the next page, Onyx, Wings, and Shinonik Kelpie getting a huge performance in the final game, pushing themselves all the way up to 8th place. Brilliantly done by them. Also have to give a shout out again, Hen and Chapix rocking up into 2nd place. They weren't actually in that final lobby. That was an error of my call there. They were in a different one, but they managed to get 3rd place and 6 elims. So just off of the pace to be able to get the overtake. But now we're going to pop on over. We still see Kripa and Dees, Hulk, Yoda, Wheat, Shadir, Ruru, and Aborn, and Lore and Razumi in 11th through 15th. Congratulations to all of you. And some more familiar faces here in terms of 16th to 20th.
Absolutely. You got Gemside 2's Gamma Thomas HD making an appearance. But hey, so new names that I'm kind of falling for is Valent and Colin. We were talking about their cooldown management